theyeshiva.net.
Okay, tonight is going to be an unbelievable, amazing program. Thank you for joining us. Tonight is shir number 83 with Coach Menachem and the Let's Get Real shir every Sunday night here. And I want to thank everybody first for every week coming. And, you know, the platform is obviously exploding. Thank you to all the viewers for posting on the WhatsApp and statuses and telling people and friends about it. You know, it's a tremendous chizuk for everybody. And people, after every shir, we get so much feedback. It's unbelievable. Baruch Hashem, we're very happy about it. So keep posting it and letting people know about it. Even if not every share is for you, definitely somebody can gain from every share. If anybody wants to join the WhatsApp groups that I send out the flyers on Sundays, please WhatsApp me at 848-525-0066. Again, that's 848-525-0066. Save my number, and every Sunday I'll WhatsApp you the flyers. I can send it around. It'll be amazing. For all the people that are watching the replay of this on YouTube, please click on the like button and the subscribe button with Coach Menachem. Okay, let's start off first with thanking all the advertising sponsors this week with Kesha Nafshi, the Lakewood Scoop for promoting us here in Lakewood. It's also streaming live on the Lakewood Scoop, so people on the channel are going to reach 1,000 shortly. You can watch it there. It's going to be on the yeshiva.net. Anybody wants to watch it can go there and watch it as well. Special thank you to Rabbi and Yaniv from Chazak for promoting us on the Chazak platform. Special thank you to Chayla Kaufman and Shmuel Sommer from JCM for promoting us. Special thank you this week to Mika Sofer from COL Live for posting it on COL. We really appreciate it. And the Coach Menachem show is also collaborating now with OK Clarity to bring greater health and wellness to the Jewish community around the globe. OK Clarity is the online platform for mental health support to the Jewish community. OKClarity.com, you'll find the best therapists, coaches, nutritionists, engagement forums, and stay inspired. Links will be emailed after the show. Thank you very much. Again, for everybody here for the first time, every Sunday night at 9:30 on this Zoom ID, we have an unbelievable shir, rabbanim, therapists, the best of the best. And so please let everybody know it's every Sunday night at 9:30. Okay. Rabbi says the yeshiva.net is not working. Somebody went to check it. Just double check it. It is working. Next Sunday, December 26th, we're going to have another amazing shir. It's going to be with Rabbi Chil Spiro and Dr. Eli Shapiro. They're discussing, are we really good parents? So I think it's going to be a little bit of a tetzah of this one. Knowing if we're really good parents, how to create a close relationship with our children. It should be a deep and meaningful program. If you know anybody could be helpful for it, anybody who's a parent could be helpful for, so join, be part of it. And tonight we have the schus of having our big home run. I'm going to call them the presidents of the Let's Get Real program, Rabbi Jacobson, who I don't know how many times he's been on the shir, but many, many times, Baruch Hashem. He sits on the board of advisories. He really, every time he comes in, we hit it out of the park, Baruch Hashem. Some of the best shiurim have been here, right, Rabbi? Yes or no? Indeed. So Baruch Hashem for him coming, and tonight we're bringing a special guest from Eretz Yisrael, Rabbi Shimon Russel, who's also been, phenomenal. Every time he's came on, we've had sold out crowd. So we figured, we might as well bring the two home run hitters and see what happens. We'll see what happens to Zoom. So tonight it's going to be an amazing program. Rabbi Russell's not here yet. It's right now by him, I think, like 4:00 in the morning. So he said as soon as he wakes up and he watches the Teves Yadayim, he will join. So give him some time. But Rabbi Wawa will open it up and get the discussion going tonight. We're going to get the Ilm Varn. It's a big topic tonight. I think we're going to finish before 2:30. We said that's what we made up. Rabbi Wawa has a Hasidic shir on the net at 2:30 a.m. So we have to finish by then. And let's start off with opening words of Coach Menachem. Open it up for the Ilm.
Thank you very much. Welcome, everyone, to Let's Get Real with Coach Menachem, episode number 83, Baruch Hashem. And the truth is, just seeing the feedback and being on this every Sunday night, it's a real honor, Baruch Hashem, to have this host, to be able to bring the awareness every week, different things, to Klal Yisrael, to get closer to our Tachlis, to Hashem, and especially tonight's topic is a heavy one. Just tell somebody struggling teens, and everyone is here. There's a big spectrum. Talking about struggling teens, some parents feel even basic, the kid is in yeshiva, everything is fine, they're just worried. Or you can have all the way to the other side, not sure, where it really, really hits you. And everybody needs their chizuk, their ideas, and their awareness what to do. And Baruch Hashem, tonight we have with us Rabbi Jacobson and Rabbi Russel who deal with these things day in, day out. And we have this chus, and It's a mordige shkoyach for them to be here. I speak many times to Menachem, and there would be that Rebbe, he's professional, he's experienced. He would tell me that after 2 days, he sees already, he gets a picture of his class. He could tell already who's what, who's who. He chaps it after 2 days. And I listen to him and I say, mamish mordik, you have to have a lot of experience, but I need you to take it a little bit weiter. I need you to take it to the next step. It's not enough that you understand your class, that you understand each kid, what the kid needs. The next step is that the kid should feel that my Rebbe understands me. Because many, many times the adults, the parents, the Rebbes, they understand the kids and they're doing the right thing. But the kid is not there. He's not listening anymore. It's a disconnect. If the child doesn't feel that the adult understands him, then when you come with your ideas, you're not sure if the kid is there. So it's not easy. Avada, to be experienced, to understand what the kid needs is number one. But to take it to the next step, that the child should feel my Rebbe understands me, or my parent, my mother, my father understands me. That takes a lot of koiches, whether it's listening, acceptance, and it's not enough to just be quiet and it should look like we accept, because they feel it. It's a vibe, it's a feeling. If inside you're thinking to yourself, you're so mad, you're so angry, they feel it. So that takes a lot of koyach, and especially parents when they're emotionally involved. And it could be mechanchim also, Rebbe's also, when they're emotionally involved. They could try to put on their face as if they're listening and accepting, but inside, if they could just shake up this child. So it does take time. And Koyach Baruch Hashem, tonight, Hashem, any question, please send them in. Tonight is the time so we can ask whatever is on your mind. And hopefully we'll be able to have a lot of siyata d'shmaya and a tefillah to the Eibishter, that whatever is needed, we should be able to take, so we should be able to be mechanech our kids and ourselves, to be able to deal with whatever the challenge is, whatever the struggle is, to feel understood, so that we can go to the next level and be mechanech in the right way. Shkoyach.
Coach Menachem, beautiful opening. Okay, let's get into it. We'll give a little overview tonight, Rabbi YY, what we want to do, and then we're going to jump into it, okay?
Perfect.
Okay. So again, I'm going to do tonight's share. I want to give a little background why we're doing tonight's share. I'll tell you from my personal view, and then Rabbi can clarify. There's going to be a big event by Kesha Nafshi. It's a big organization that I'm part of. We go to the Shabbatonim, and it's an organization for people that have struggling teens. They go there for Shabbosim, and it's very hard to be masber. Rabbi is better with words than me. It can be a little bit more masber what it is and the chizik. And I can only tell you from a person that goes and it's part of it that it's a life-changing Shabbos on so many levels. I told a lot of my friends to come. I spoke about it on the show. Everybody who's come, I don't use the word addicted, but comes every single time, and it's mamash. They look forward to it. It helps them, gives them chizah, gives them a big hadracha, tremendous thing. So I felt this year, this coming up here, it's going to be New Year's weekend. I will not be able to attend. So I felt like if you can't go to Kesha Nafshi, bring Kesha Nafshi to you. So I figured let's make a shir. It's not so much Kesha Nafshi, it's more to talk about the whole Indian, but I feel in the schus, that I'm making a chasana during that time, so I won't be able to come. So the schus with the thousands of people, Hashem will be mechazik from this year, and to help so many people in Klal Yisrael, it should be a schus for the chasana kala, should have tremendous nachas and gesund, and all these thousands of chusim should be for them. So that's why we're doing it. And Rabbi YY, I'd like you to open up. If we open, maybe we could talk about Kesha Nafshi a little bit, just to explain what it is, and then let's get into the Inyan tonight.
Yeah. Okay, first of all, thank you so much, my dear beloved friends, Rabbi Asher Parnes and Coach Menachem, and the entire family already of Let's Get Real, an entire family that's real, thousands of Jews. I don't know how many times I have had the privilege of being on this extraordinary Sunday evening. I don't want to call it a show. What is it? A Sunday evening Fabrengen?
Sichas Chaverim.
Sichas Chaverim. So it's really, again, a thrilling privilege and opportunity to be here with you guys and to be here with I see almost close to 1,000 people right here on the Zoom and on the yeshiva.net and all of the other platforms where you're on. So welcome everybody. Thank you so much for being here. So let me begin with a following observation. I said this in Shul a few days ago. It's startling when you think about it, literally startling. Rashi asks a big question, and his question is as simple as it is profound. If your child has committed a grave, grave error, a real big aveira, a serious sin, there's a mitzvah to educate your child. There's a mitzvah for every Jew. As the Rambam discusses at length in Hilchos Deis, Perek Vav, it's a mitzvah to talk to somebody, to confront mistakes, to confront wrongdoings, not to be tolerant of negativity, of behavior that is immoral, unethical, against the will of Hashem. When do you talk about it? You talk about it after it happened. So Rashi asks a question. Reuven committed something that certainly relative to his level was inappropriate. The pasuk says in Vayishlach, after Rachel passed away, Vayelech Reuven. Reuven went, and as Chazal say, he interfered into the private life of Yaakov. He took Yaakov's bed outside of Bilhah's tent and he put it in Leah's tent because he felt that it was so painful for Leah that after Rachel's death, Yaakov should move his bed into Bilhah's tent, who was Rachel's maid. When did Yaakov decide to talk to Reuven about this? And the answer is on his deathbed. You know how many years transpired between the event and Yaakov addressing the event? 47 years. Yaakov passed away at 147. This happened when Yaakov was approximately 100 after Rachel's passing. A half a century, Yaakov didn't say a word. Asks Rashi, why? Why? And you know what Rashi's answer is in the beginning of Parshas Dvarim? Unbelievable. Yaakov said, if I talk to Reuven about what he did earlier, I am afraid Shema Yelech v'yidbak be'esav ochi. Reuven is going to say, bye-bye, Tati, bye-bye. I'm going to Esav. I have a Mizrach seat by Esav. I'm going to get Shlishi, Shishi, Mafter Yoina, guest of honor. I'll be Rosh Yeshiva by Esav. So Yaakov was quiet for 50 years, not saying a word to Reuven because he felt that if he says this to Reuven, he's going to lose the boy. He's going to go to Esav. Who is he? He's not going to go to another yeshiva. He's not going to go to another Rebbe. He's not going to go to another kollel. He's not going to go to another community. He's going to go to Esav. Reuven is going to go to Esav. So Yaakov decided, I'm not saying a word. So somebody asked me, this is what Rashi says in the beginning of Dvarim. He quotes it from Medrash Rabbah Dvarim. So somebody asked me a question. He said, Rabbi, why? I don't understand. When Yaakov says it at his deathbed, Reuven could also go to Esav. Just like he didn't want to say it earlier. So when he says it at the end of his life and he tells Reuven, as he does in Parshas Vayechi, we read it yesterday, Reuven, you were preeminent, you were the oldest. Pachas kamayim al toisar ki alisa mishkeve yavichas chilalta yitzui Allah. But you were impetuous like water, and therefore you lost these great privileges because of what you did. You violated the intimates, the privacy of your father. Now he can also run away to Esav. He can also run away. So somebody in Shul said, at this point, Reuven was already an elderly man. He had girls in seminary. He had Einiklach to marry off. Well, he's going to go run to Esav. Okay, cute. Well, what's the real answer? The real answer, I think, is very, very simple and very profound. When Yaakov called over his son Reuven to his bed, and he said, Reuven, I want to talk about what happened 50 years ago. And Reuven thought to himself, Ribono Shalayla, my father was quiet for 50 years. He did not say a word to me. Why? Why? Because he felt that this may compromise our relationship. This may make me feel dejected. I don't belong in this family. I'll have a much easier life by Esav. I'll have a much more luxurious, and I'll have much more respect and love by Esav. And therefore he was silent 50 years about something that touched him at the core of his heart. When you realize that this is the father you have, you don't leave such a father. When you realize this is your father, like Yehuda said about Binyamin and Yaakov, you don't leave such a father. Such a father you don't leave. And I think that this captures the essence of what so many of us need to understand so desperately. All teichecha in the world, all chastisement in the world, all education in the world, all musar in the world, as beautiful, as holy, as vital, as important, as sacred, as divine as it is. The Yesod HaYesod is the foundation underlying everything is attachment, connection. V'nafshay kshura b'nafshay. And if there's a % chance that as a result of your words, you're not going to build your child, you're going to alienate your child, he's going to run to Esav, then Yaakov says, be quiet for 50 years. But it's hard. It's hard. We have strong values. Yaakov also had strong values, stronger than me. He was one of the Merkavas in Merkava. The Medrash says, Bachur Shabavas. He was quiet, not for a year. He was quiet for 50 years. Not because he forgot. He spoke about it. And then he spoke to Shimon and Levi also. Words that he never told them before. Words that he never told them before. He said it right before he passed away because he felt that they had to be aware of it. But they had to know how much he loved them, how much he cherished them, how proud he was of them, how connected he was with them. That changes everything. We live in a time that this truth is emerging more and more every single day. Between parents and children, between rebbes, between teachers and students, boys and girls, young and old. When there's connection, all good things could happen. When there's disconnection, the most amazing ideas and most religious incentives and obligations ultimately can chas v'shalom be counterproductive. And that's why I always find it very moving to join the Shabbaton of the Kesha Nafshi organization, which you could look up, keshanafshi.org, which is happening not this coming Shabbos, but the next Shabbos, Shabbos Parshas Va'era, which is also New Year's, welcoming 2022. And it's a Shabbos. I've been there with Reb Asher quite a few times. I've been there for quite a few years already. I had the privilege of speaking there. What is it? Last time, you remember we were there together, Reb Asher, 2 times ago. There were around 700-800 people, parents, fathers, and mothers. I call them the tzaddikim of our generation. I'm not exaggerating. You'll come, you'll see why. And you're talking about like this, from almost every Hasidic group, from Litvish backgrounds, Yeshivish backgrounds, Svardim, Ashkenazim, Modern Orthodox. You have Bobovich Chassidim and Satmach Chassidim and Chabad Chassidim and Kloisenberger Chassidim and Gerich Chassidim and Sanzach Chassidim, Sadi Gerich Chassidim, Puppich Chassidim. Mamish literally, Vizhnitzer Chassidim, Tzkverich Chassidim, Rosh Yeshivas, Mashpiyim, Mechanchim, great tzaddikim, rabbis of shuls. What brings them together is one thing. V'nafshay kshura b'nafshay. They're not ready to let go of their children. Yes, we're struggling with our children, each one in their own way, some very, very extreme ways, some different types of ways, some with boys, girls, different ages, older, younger. They're struggling, and they don't want to leave go of their children. And there's that difficult challenge because the pain, because the communities they live in, because of the other children, because of their own family. It's not easy. This is one of the biggest tests of our generation. Having a daughter, right? You sacrificed everything to inculcate Yireh Shamayim, values. As little children, these were the most cutest, holiest, beautiful heilige Kinder. And now as they're growing up, they're disappointing you. And sometimes not just disappointing you, but literally breaking your heart into 100 pieces. And these mothers and fathers, who are extraordinary people, come together to strengthen each other. They speak openly there, but without judgment. There's so much love. There's so much pride in the room. And you learn When I remember, Reb Asher told me Sunday, what did you tell me last time Sunday? You know, what did you tell me at the last session over there with Rabbi Russell?
Said I don't come for the speakers. I said I come for the parents.
Yeah, they have incredible speakers and the
Rabbi Y is not
therapists.
bad. Rabbi Y was not bad.
I'm privileged to be one of them. But it's an incredible program. But the parents themselves, something special. So if you need chizuk in this area, and who doesn't, it's worthwhile. And don't think, oh, they're going to find out that I'm struggling. Because trust me, every single person over there is struggling. It's confidential. Nobody is posting pictures of the people, so it's not like everybody's going to find out you were there. There's no judgment there because everybody is dealing with serious things, and it's just like, it's so open. The women are open, and surprisingly, the men are open and vulnerable and authentic. So I would encourage it very, very much because I've seen how much it benefited parents, and I myself have suggested to many, many people to go, and they have taken me up on the offer, and they have been very grateful for it. So I encourage you, if you can, and even if you can't, try to make it happen. B'sayata d'shmaya, the next Shabbos Parshas Va'era, it's in Stamford, Connecticut. You could register at keshanafshi.org. And I'm not one of the staff. I'm not one of the organizers. I'm not suggesting this because I have a personal benefit from it. I'm not. I'm suggesting it because I've seen how much it has helped people. If you can't come with your husband or with your wife, it's better to come together, but still consider coming alone. And I do not think you will regret it. You will see one of the most amazing groups in Klal Yisrael today in terms of people whose infinite love to Hashem, to Torah, and to their children knows no bounds. And those of you who are on, you inspire me, you inspire us, and I'm looking forward to see all of you who will be there Shabbos, and together, Be'ezer Hashem, we will strengthen each other and declare together, as we said yesterday, Chazak, Chazak, V'nischazek.
Beautiful. Rabbi Russell's on. Rabbi Russell, you want to say hello to everybody?
Oh.
Yeah, hi, good morning. I just got up. Hi. Wow, I enjoyed very much what you just said.
Good morning.
And,
we schlepped him out of bed. What is it? 4:50 in the morning.
Yeah.
It's 4:50 a.m. It's before Vasikin.
But I have
It's
to
even
tell
before Terach's Minyan.
Rabbi Russell wakes up this time every day anyways. Not a big deal.
I got to tell you, first of all, I echo everything you said. I just heard the last 10 minutes about Kesha Nafshi. I know I've been there since the beginning, speaking at all the conferences. And I can honestly say I come home mechuzak. My wife and I drove home so unbelievably mechuzak from spending that Shabbos. You know, with honest people, everyone gets honest. Where do we ever get really, truly honest? When do we feel safe enough to be really honest about ourselves, our avodah, our kesha tiyadas, helping our kids, seeing the truth? And this Shabbos provides it. It's really an astonishing Shabbos, where honestly I walk away mechuzak. I come to be mechazik, but I walk away mechuzak every single time. So you know, it's anyone. If you can come, if you have a half a minute, then come. Just come. You'll see what we mean. You'll see. It's hard to describe.
Rabbi Russell, you want to give a few minutes open just to lay out what we want to discuss tonight, very clear, so we can get really into the parsha.
Yeah. So look, the subject was struggling. Why so many teens struggling today, and what can we do about it? So we have discussed this. Gosh, I'm seeing all the things popping up from people saying hi. And let me just say hi to everyone. I love you all. It's the truth from my heart. And I'll see all the comments afterwards. Yeah. So the subject is huge. And I'm very, very makpid myself when we speak about chinuch issues and children especially. That we clarify who we're talking about so that we're not giving confusing messages here. Rabbi Jacobson and I, we discussed before this, what would be the group, the subset, who are we talking about? And I want to tell you the way I see it overall, and I think we're all in agreement with this. If we're looking at the kids, who are growing up in the broader yeshiva world, our community, the yeshiva world community. If we see the kids when by the time they reach 12th grade, we can recognize, I think, in broad brushstrokes, three groups of kids. To the credit, all credit to the system and those who work in it and work with such Mesiras Nefesh and Moiseh Nefesh truly to help them. We see I would say about 20% of the kids, and I'm going to be very optimistic here, very optimistic, but 20% of the kids who come out graduating 12th grade, and they're really fantastic. They are learning the Moiseh Nefesh to learn, the kids, the girls are sanua. It seems natural and easy for them. They are fantastic products who've come through the system and really imbibed and drunk. They drank in what was offered to them, and they come out really special. I see them. They're steiging away in Torah and mitzvahs and Yiras Hashem. They're very special. That's about 20%. You have about 20% at the other end who don't make it through 12th grade, who simply don't make it for a variety of reasons, but they don't make it through. And largely it's to do with trauma. It's not, it's not the fault of anyone, but it's trauma that really pushes them off. That's about 20% at the bottom. In the middle, there's about 60% of the kids. That's like 3 in 5 who come through. They're from, they dress the part, more or less. They act the part, more or less. They very much want to be part of the system. You could see that. But they struggle tremendously with their own feelings of success. If you would ask them, as I do, I'm talking about outside my office, when I meet kids all over the place. We have for Shabbos very often. My wife and I, a group of boys from yeshivas or a group of girls from seminaries. And I discuss it with them. I ask them, these are good products of the system. And I ask them, and it turns out that this 60% are feeling at best that they were tolerated. They do not feel they were a tremendous nachas, not to the system, not to their rebbeim and teachers, not to their parents. They don't feel like they really, that everyone's proud of them. They see that the parents and mechanchim, the schools, everyone's working very hard to try and be proud of them. But they feel it and they know it, that they weren't that 20%. They weren't the idealized success stories of the system. And they carry a burden of pain and hurt through life. This is a remarkable thing just happened last week, that someone contacted me about, would I run a group, like we have AA and NA and OA. They want SHA. What's SHA? I don't know what SHA is. SHA is Shul Anonymous. Shul Anonymous. This is indicative of the times we live in, where someone opened a shul here in Yerushalayim for men who hate shul, who feel almost repulsed by shul. They can't go to shul. They feel scared to be in shul. They want to be in shul, but they're really, it kicks up too much pain and fright inside. And someone opened a shul for such people to try and help them. And they want to know, would I run a group? Would I run a group to help them overcome their fear and hurt? And these are from people, Yungalites and Bachrim, who don't feel they succeeded. I'm sure of it. They feel very, very scared and reactive. And they're the 60% who are hurting. They're part of the system. They want to be. This is what Meir Rebbe Mashgiach always referred to as the push-outs, not the dropouts. They're not wanted. They feel tolerated. This word is a horrible word, that a human being, a yid, should feel tolerated. That we tolerated you. You weren't the nachas of our system, but we tolerated you. We accepted you. We didn't, it's not good. if we're talking about secular studies, I don't care if we tolerate someone in math or geography or history. But when the main thrust of our system is Yadus, is Torah and mitzvahs, that we should have a vast bulk of young people, boys and girls, feeling tolerated, that's no good. That's awful. That's absolutely horrendous. It actually flies, if I can just say, it flies against the essence of Yadus, in my opinion. We know that when Klal Yisrael came out of Mitzrayim, we were Mem Tesh Shari Tumah. I'm not sure any of us can really imagine what that must have looked like. Mem Tesh Shari Tumah is like, I assure you, our 60% are way above the Mem Tesh Shari Tumah. Mem Tesh Shari Tumah, what did they look like? Yet the Kodesh Baruch Hu brought us out, Dafka Mem Tesh Shari Tumah, so that we would never mistake and think that HaKadosh Baruch Hu loves us and embraces us and accepts us because of our productivity, because of how much we achieved, because of how smart we are, or how much we learned. HaKadosh Baruch Hu brought us out because of our atzmius. B'ni b'chari Yisrael, you are my child, my firstborn child, Klal Yisrael. I love you because of your metzias, says Hashem. And let's not confuse it. It's nothing to do with being the top in the class and pulling great grades and getting hundreds and A's and doing well. Mem Tesh Shari Tumah. It looked a lot better, a lot worse, than the 60% of our system. But Hashem loved us because of our metzias, of who we are. That's missing. That's missing. And that's why we have all the problems we have with struggling kids, because they're not made to feel worthy, that we value your existence because you're a Yid, you're a Jew, you're a child. And therefore we value you for who you are, whether you get the best grades or not. We value you deeply and profoundly because of your atzmius, your metzias. If children don't grow up with that, don't feel that, but grow up in a world where they feel disappointment about them, where they feel unable to be the 20% that produce the amazing nachas. If kids come through feeling tolerated, then yes, they're going to turn elsewhere for feelings of goodness or feelings of happiness, to distract themselves and to get through life. They're going to turn elsewhere. Our job is to work out how do we shift things so that children feel good about themselves and they feel valued by Klal Yisrael. That's the job. And I think that's what we're talking about today, the 60%. How do we help them? How do we shift things to help them?
Reb Shimon, you know what the Maharal says in Tiferes Yisrael? The Maharal of Prague writes something incredible. He says the only tzaddik who's introduced in Torah without a biography is Avraham Avinu. Noach has a biography, Moshe has a biography. We understand the context. The Maharal asks, it's a question of the Ramban. Why doesn't the Torah say even one pasuk, two psukim, that Avraham was a good man, he was a holy man, he was a tzaddik, he sacrificed himself for Hashem? You have to go to the Medrash. In Torah, there's not a single word justifying Hashem's choice of Avraham Avinu as the first Jew. Gewaldige question of the Ramban. Incredible question. The Maharal answers, not to give the impression that only a Jew who lives up to a certain bio is somebody who Hashem loves infinitely and chooses.
100%. Is that
your innate existence that I am proud of with absolute pride.
But we have to, if we don't imbue our children with the feeling of B'ni B'chayri Yisrael, you are my firstborn child. I love you because of your atzmius, your metzias of who you are without any performance. I love you. If we don't imbue that in our, and we don't, tragically, if we don't do that, why should we be surprised if kids look elsewhere for chizuk and support? And these are great kids. These are great kids. They're all great kids who don't really understand what's happened around them. and why they hurt so much, why they feel so much pain, why they feel like a disappointment. We at the outset, everyone, look, first of all, we say it as a melitza. You say it, all the time. I hear you say it. Why you talk about, as we all do, that if any of the others would try to get their kids into school today, we know they'd be rejected. We know it. Yeah, we say it as a melitza, but it's sort of true. And it's sad. What happened to us that we lost? We need to address this issue maturely without knocking. I'm such a chassid of the system, and support of Torah and our ruchnis and our system, our yeshiva system is staffed, let's be honest, by the top rung of Klal Yisrael, the best people in Klal Yisrael, the mechanchim and the mechanches, or moisa nefesh for our kids. That is the greatest job there is in Klal Yisrael, is to take care of our children. Is there a more important job? No. And they're paid the least, for this job, and criticized the most for this job. They're the best we have. They are. And nevertheless, there's something unhealthy happening that prevents these children coming out the way they should come out, feeling proud to be a Yid. If you ask the average kid, are you proud? Pride? Do you have pride in being a Yid? They're ashamed. They're ashamed to answer the question. They're embarrassed. They hesitate. No one should hesitate answering that question.
Okay, Rabbi Russell, we have a few questions. I want to get a little bit into it. I know we're just starting.
Please.
I just want to say, anybody who's on can go to the yeshiva.net, Rabbi YY's site, and try to watch it, because a lot of people are trying to get on and they can't get on. We're maxed at 1,000. So anybody who's for sure not going to ask the question, who's going to watch it, please go to the yeshiva.net and you can watch it all there. You could go out of the Zoom, it would be great, so other people can join. Let's start with a few questions from the Olam, and then we'll get into it, okay? Is that okay, Rabbi Russell?
We're ready.
Sure. I just, but I just want to make one last comment. There's no misunderstanding here. If we're going to analyze and discuss, as I think I probably will, I'm done with being politically correct. I'd rather be honest and see if we can help people. But I don't want to be misunderstood. If we love something enough, then we ought to be healthy enough to give it constructive criticism to make it better. And I don't want any other misunderstanding that, if there's any comments that are reflective on how we can improve things, that shouldn't be misunderstood as a criticism of that it's wrong and bad and we chas v'shalom. It's the exact opposite. I don't think we would take the risk to have conversations like this if not for the fact that we love the system so much and we want to see it do better, and we know it can. And I just hope that carries through this evening, that everyone understands that.
Amazing. Okay. Yes. Okay, let's start with the first live question. You're on.
Hi, thank you for taking my question. It's been a few years since I was a teenager. It's not so far. So I still have a pretty good memory, a little bit of my years. I didn't have such a fun, I had a lot of challenges there, but whatever my situation was, I'm more than happy to share if you have any questions. But what I did was I really pushed very, very, very hard, because that was like maybe almost the only option I had. And Baruch Hashem, I'm doing much more now. I don't think the process was so geschmack, what I think I would have wanted it to be. But what I do now is that I tutor a lot of people who are in Mesivta, high school, different subjects, whether it's Limudei Kodesh or Chayil. And I see a lot of them are not enjoying themselves. I don't know if it has anything to do with social media or, using a lot of different technology, I would say, because I tutor from both ends of the spectrum, people that have nothing to do with technology and people that are more involved in technology. I just want to know from what can I do, and what is the hachi nekuda that it could be focused on that we could say is the cause. I don't know if it's my thing's the same as theirs. And what am I able to do to kind of, be mechazik them and help them out?
Good. Why would you want to go first and say something on that? Well, look, if you're asking me first, to me, it's simple. All the questions that are going to be asked that are later on in the system, later on in age, after all the damage has been done, after we've failed to reach and inspire the kids, after we've failed to do collectively as a community, as Klal Yisrael, the schools, home, everything, we failed to do effective chinuch, what is true chinuch, which means internalization and inspiration. When we failed to do that, we now wake up and have problems later on. What should we do then? What we should do is take a look at what we're doing wrong and try and fix it at the shirish. Avada, we have to deal with that. And I know everyone wants to know, what do we do with technology? What do I do with the smartphone? What do I do? That's the result of the problem. And I think we have to put a much stronger dogish initially on what caused the problem. What happened so that we could understand it? So the real problem, the shirish, is that the majority of the kids are uninspired. We do not inspire them. Again, if we were teaching secular studies, I wouldn't care less. That's fine. Everyone has their own mahalach of what they want to do with their lives. When we're teaching Yadus, Torah mitzvahs, that's awful. You know, you look in primary, any primary class, anywhere in the country, in the world, kids are happy. Yeah, Hashem is here, Hashem is there, Hashem is truly everywhere. Oh, they love it. They're in love with Hashem. It's beautiful to watch. Halavai, we would stop then, just after primary, and then everyone will leave them all alone. They'll all love Hashem. They're all inspired. Somehow, as we introduce more and more academia, we lose that. The more we introduce the academia, the more the Hamoinam lose the kesher pnimi of inspiration to Yadus, to Torah mitzvahs, that we lose that. And that's the key. The key is, how do we teach kids? How do we help them grow up feeling inspired, where they can internalize the wonderful messages of chinuch they're being taught, so it means something to them and connects with them? Then it's a different conversation what we do later on with how we address the internet and technology and all the problems in the world. It's a different sugya, it's a different subject, it's a different conversation. So I'd just like to shift it. I understand what you're asking is, so what do we do now that we've got this? The answer is, we have to find a way to inspire. We have to find a way to make young people feel there's something meaningful in Yadus, and it's not about grades and memorization and exams and how much you know and how well you learn. HaKadosh Baruch Hu made people different. Some learn amazing and some don't. And some, everyone can learn something, but we can't all learn on the highest level as Avi Gedol Yisrael. That's just not, it's not reasonable. It doesn't mean, it's just not mature way of looking at life. It's not possible. It's possible for any individual person who is so inspired that they want to be Moshe Nefesh and spend their lives trying to work it out. If they're so inspired, yeah, probably anyone can learn on the highest levels. Anyone can get there. But if they're not inspired, it's not possible. It's just not doable. So anyone who's talking to young people, the goal is to find a way of inspiring them where they feel a connection to Yadus, instead of Torah mitzvahs being forced upon them and then being judged about how much they know and how well they do it. We have to get rid of that judgment, strip it off, and instead replace it with inspiration.
Shimon, you're a therapist for almost 35 years, right?
32 years, that's correct.
32 years, Lamed Beis, and you have grown to develop a heart, a lev.
Correct.
For how many teenagers have you seen, children, teenagers? Thousands upon thousands upon thousands. Could you tell us, in 32 years, what are the one or two most powerful things that you have learned about what damages, what destroys, what demoralizes, what alienates our kids, our boys, our girls, our teenagers?
So I'll tell you this again. I'm going to say it all through the night because I know I'm going to be misquoted as bashing, and I don't bash. I love the system, and I'm in pain about what I see, and I've tried my best to help it shift and move. You can't use the word change, when you reference the system. They get nervous, but change is what's necessary. What I see overall, I'm going to say Baklalius and then Proteus, if that's okay. What I see clearly is that we have a system that was created to recover from the Holocaust. Gedolei Yisrael clearly had a picture and a view, which they were 100, in my Askama, they were clearly right, because here we are, 80 years later, and take a look at us. I mean, it's incredible. They had a picture and a view of recovery from the Holocaust. And in the recovery picture, it was obvious that Moistus, putting the Moised first and the individual second, was crucial. To be metapel with every single individual's needs when you're trying to recover from the Holocaust. It was clear, I heard it directly from Gedolei Yisrael, who said it to me. And I must tell you, it grieved me deeply when I first heard these words. I was not mature enough to understand it. But over time, I began to embrace it and understand that the mandate of the Gedolim was clearly for survival. They were concerned about survival of Klal Yisrael. They were not concerned about the survival of the individual. And they created a system that helped us survive Baklalius. And it's amazing how it worked. And again, I repeat, when I first heard these ideas directly from the pair of Gedolei Yisrael, it hurt me. It sounded like, our dogish is not on the individual. They'll go off, they go off. That's life. It was painful. As I say, I'm matured to understand that. But for continuity of Klal Yisrael, that same system that provided for recovery has to move, has to shift if it's going to provide for continuity. One of the yesodis I see that children feel inside that hurts them to their core is that they're an object in a moised where the moised comes first, where the needs of the moised is why, we want you to shtelzu, to control yourself and behave and be successful for us. Otherwise, we can't tolerate you. Yeah, it's a crazy thing to say, but it's how children feel. They're fully aware that when they get disciplined or they get, whatever happens to them within the moised, the threat is that we don't need you. You're going to shtelzu, we don't need you. This is an awful, awful message for continuity of Klal Yisrael. I understand, it took me a long time, but I got it, that it was a message, a quiet, subtle message that was there at the beginning for recovery after the war. But Hashem Yirachem, that a child should go through the system knowing when they look in the eyes of the menal of their school or their parents that I'm not good enough and I'm sort of permanently on probation. I better shtelzu, they'll throw me out. That I can't even get in till I get a letter that accepts me into a school. What am I, a piece of garbage? I can't get in because of grades. I can't get in somehow. I'm not good enough. The prevailing, this message that we all know exists and the children are fully aware of, that when, for example, when discipline occurs in a school, the message the child gets is that you're hurting our moised, and therefore you have to still, and therefore you're punished. We can't have you. We can't tolerate this here. Whereas the message has to shift to a more authentic and true message, where the message is, Shefala, we want the best for you. What we're trying to do is help you be a person, a yid. We want to help you. I'll give you an example. Every school, bli shum yotzim min haklal, cannot function. In fact, children cannot flourish any children, without rules, structure, and discipline. Without those three asaidas, children cannot grow up. It's not possible. They can't become healthy. It's hefka. We need rules, structure, and discipline. In days gone by, I grew up that way. Rules, structure, and discipline were administered with a tough face, with the withdrawal of love, with frustration and upsetness at you. And by withdrawing love, the assumption was the child will want that love and will respond because they want that kesha and want that love, and therefore will respond, and they'll discipline themselves and they'll shteltzu to the system. This was the assumption up until, I don't know, it was when I was a child. Well, that's gone. That's gone. That assumption is no longer true. And in fact, what the children are hearing is, I don't really need you in my moisad. We don't need you. You're bothering our school. If you want to stay in school, you better do this, this, and this. Whereas the child feels, so essentially, my job is to make sure your moisad feels good. Your school feels good and can function. It's the wrong message. That message will not inspire and help a child with continuity and want to be part of it. If they've got the message that everything we're trying to do is make you work so that we can feel we're running a good moisad, well, then the kids are going to drop out. They don't want to be part of it. The message has to be, Shefala, this is for you. We want to help you function. Avada, we've got rules, structure, and discipline. Of course, because without it, it's hefka. A child has to learn. Aye pere adam yivaled. A child needs to be disciplined and work through how to do that. But we have to do it with love. We have to do it with apology. We have to do it with sensitivity. We have to do it, but we have to do it with sensitivity. And I think if you, Bechlalius, the thing that's missing the most is this. This system, if it's going to provide for continuity of Klal Yisrael, and there are, by the way, mosters that are doing it, without question. I see it. I speak to the principals. They talk to me. And they're shifting their mosters, not to get chas v'shalom, to get loose and give up having rules, structure, and discipline. Chas v'shalom, you need that. But doing it in a way that's loving, caring, and tells the child a clear message. We're doing this for you.
So Reb Shimon, when a boy or a girl come late, 3, 4, 5 hours late, day after day, or a bacher or a girl, give me the scenario.
So I will tell you.
The 10-year-old, the 6-year-old, the 14-year-old, the 17-year-old.
At the end of the day, how's the moist supposed to be mechanic when the kid is pushing those limits?
When he's coming 2 hours late, an hour late, whatever it is.
Yeah. It's the same thing. If you really want to know where it's heading, what I've suggested to schools, and there are schools that are doing it today, and they're seeing the results almost instantly. When children come late, in the old days, it was a detention, it was a punishment, and let's just punish knas. One manal told me it got so bad in his school with the punishments and the detention, it just didn't work. It didn't work. So one kid came in with a credit card. They got punished, knast, for coming late. And he said, here, he gave the credit card to the manal. So what's this for? He said, my father said, you should just keep it on file. So when I come late, you could just swipe the card. It just doesn't work anymore. Actually, it's the opposite that works. So when a kid comes late.
Russell, I'm sorry. Can I pause you for 1 second? I'm getting hundreds of texts. Anybody who could go to yeshiva.net, please go there now because nobody can get on. A lot of people want to come on. So anybody
the yeshiva.net, THEYESHIVA.net, the yeshiva.net.
Yeah, so if a few hundred people can go there, that'll be big chesed if you're not going to ask a question. Thank you. Continue. Sorry, Rev Russell.
Yeah, no problem. So we did an experiment in one school, and I'm going to say this just as an experiment, and it worked. And the Manal had a problem with kids coming late for davening, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, coming late. And I suggested to him, why don't you daven early, and stand by the door, and as they come late, compliment the kids for making the effort. So a kid comes 5 minutes late, you say, I see you came. Gewaldig, go daven. I'm so happy you're here. A kid comes 15 minutes late, you say, wow, I can't imagine what struggle you must have had this morning. Meiradik, I'm so proud of you, you came. Thank you for coming. Go daven. And a kid comes really late, you say, I can't believe it. I would have thought so you'd give up. It must have been so hard for you. Wow, I'm so impressed with you. Come to me recess. Let's have a schmooze. I got a Danish for you. And recess, you go sit down with such a kid who repeats such behavior again and again and again. And you sit down with him in recess and say to him, Sheffield, I see you coming late regularly. What's going on? How can we help you? And you give him a Danish and a soda and you schmooze it over with him. And the kid realizes, we're here for you. We want to help you. A simple little tikkun. And the Manal noticed the school started shifting. The dagish has to shift to the child where the child knows, even if he's going to get a detention for something, we want to help you. Sheffield, you got a detention. I feel so bad. But that's the rules. How can we help you? Come talk to me. Come, let's sit down and discuss it. How can we help you so you don't come late? What's going on? What's happening in your life? How can we help you?
Reb Shimon, I had a conversation with a Rosh Yeshiva who runs a yeshiva. This is already for teenage boys. And his system is knossim. He gives big monetary penalties if you come late. If you come 10 minutes late, it's $5. If you come a half an hour late, it's $20. Come 2 hours late, whatever. It's a punishment for the parents, of course. I asked him, what do you gain from it? What do you gain from it? He said, if I get rid of the knossim system, my yeshiva falls apart.
He's wrong.
Nobody's going to show up.
He's dead wrong. He's dead wrong. If he would stand by the door of the yeshiva and give a warm smile to every kid and compliment them, the later they come means the greater struggle the kid has. I'm not talking about a one-time thing. A kid can be lazy, he has a hard day. But when you see consistency with kids coming late and you reach out to them and say, Shefla, it must be hard for you. Come, let's talk about it. And the later they come, the more you praise them for making the effort anyway. Must have been so hard for you. I can't imagine what you're going through. And
the later they come, the bigger the Danish.
The bigger the Danish, exactly. I had another system. Listen to this. I had a system. I started teaching this many, many years ago when I did in-services. And it was so amazing what happened. The schools that tried it told me, how amazing it was. I told the Rebbeim, they should have a yellow, an orange, and a red card in their pocket. And it's like this. They tell the kids, this is the system. This is how we're going to function. If they see a kid struggling, they're not listening. They're not, you need to calm them down during class. You drop a yellow card on their desk. And on the yellow card, it says, I, your Rebbe, understand you're having a hard day. Drop it on his desk. Most kids will settle down when they get the yellow card. If he doesn't, you drop an orange card on his desk. And it says on the orange card, I, your Rebbe, understand you're having a really hard day. And almost all kids will settle by then. And Lu Yitzu, a kid doesn't. You drop a red card, and it says on the red card, I see you're having such a hard day. Please go to the Manal with this card, get a Danish and a soda, and discuss with the Manal why you're having such a hard day. What's the message? What is the whole point? That the child realizes and internalizes, I'm here to help you with your hard day. Our job is to help you grow up healthy. And by the time he gets to the Manal's office, instead of being thrown out the class where he's thrown out so hard he makes an indentation in the sheetrock in the hallway opposite the door of his classroom, he goes to the Manal who's not his enemy. He goes to the Manal who gives him the Danish and the soda and says, Shefla, we're here to help you. How can we help you? And it's amazing. It's such a game changer.
Is it possible that we adopted unconsciously the Christian idea of original sin, we don't really trust that our kids really want to do the right thing. It's almost like we feel that we have to impose it on them externally so that it should look good, because if we leave it to their own devices, there'll be chaos.
You know what? That would be wonderful if we would even do that. I don't think we're doing that. I don't think we're thinking about it at all. I think what's happened is we're just continuing a system that, as I said, was designed to recover from the Holocaust, where the individual child's feelings count less than the Mosad's efficiency. And that has to shift. A child has to have no suffix whatsoever, none at all, that when we discipline that child, when we help that child recognize there are rules, structure, and discipline, say at home and say at school, a child has to know when they look at your face, I want to help you steig. I want to help you grow up. I'm doing this for you. This is not for me. I'm doing fine. Thank you. I'm doing just fine. This is for you. I want to help you. We have to shift the paradigm where children understand and they read it off the facial expression, the body language, and the tone of voice of their parents, teachers, and mechanchim, that what we're doing and reacting to you is for you, to help you. That's the shift, the primary shift that we have to make, so the kids don't flow through the system always feeling tolerated. You know how many kids tell me, I felt like I was on permanent probation? I was told it by my, sometimes they would come and tell me, we're watching you. What do you mean we're watching? Is the KGB here? We're watching you? Why don't they come and say, Shefel, I just want you to know we're loving you.
Our parents grew up under the KGB.
Yeah, you did, for sure. Yeah, for sure. But that's not a way that our kids are going to feel. You understand, if they're going to internalize the messages, the wonderful messages of Torah and Yira being taught to them by their mechanchim, the heilige mechanchim, teaching them these messages, if they're going to internalize it, then they have to want it. It has to create pleasure within them. I'll give you another example, if I may. I asked recently, I was talking to a mechanech, asked me, they're having problems with high school, it was 9th grade. And they're having problems in their class. I said to this mechanech, tell me something. Why do you grade the kids? Why do you give grade? And do you give tests? Do you give tests? He said, sure, Vada. I said, do you grade the tests? He said, of course. I said, why do you do that? He looked at me like, of course you grade the tests. The kids should know whether they're succeeding or not. I said, really? That's why you grade a test? Well, you think that's helpful to children? He said, yeah. I said, no, it's not. Do you know why you grade tests? So you, the Rebbe, can focus on what the child is having a hard time knowing, so you can teach them better. The whole point of marking and grading is so that you can see where he's struggling and who is struggling, so you can work out how to help them and be mechazik them. So you can see how to teach them better. Kids don't get inspired by having great big beginners. The 20% do. Let's be very clear again. The 20% love all this. They love it. And they're natural learners. They steig away. The 60% dread the whole thing, because grades is an affirmation of how worthless they feel. That's horrendous. That's horrendous. And it simply has to change.
Rabbi Russell, can we get a few more questions and the other wants to ask? The other one's ready to ask. You ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Hi.
Hi.
First, I want to thank everyone here. I just wanted to say that my question has been a little bit answered. I just wanted to, my question was, what's the solution? I don't have kids, teenage kids that are struggling, but I do have 2 little boys that are in the system. And I see how the system affected my husband and how it affected my relationship because of it. I mean, I came from my own baggage, but and I was also in the system. But now that I'm seeing my kids and I see what's happening in the system, like I see how what happened to my husband may happen to them. And I want to know of a solution. I speak to Menalim. I point out when my kids come up with, they come and tell me the way they feel about certain things. They were, if they were, right. We need to feel safe by the adults around us. So if I'm the safe parent at home, and if there's no safe melamed in the cheder, by, let's say if I come up and I say a child hurt me, and you say, why are you bothering me in the middle of the class? And the child is like, he's not going to share anymore. And he comes home and tells me, my Rebbe was mad at me that I told him that a child hurt me and I bothered him in the middle of class. So I am like, it's important to have a safe environment. Now, the question is, what's the solution? Do we do awareness for Melamdim? I mean, I speak every time I have an issue with a Melamed, and I'm not here to blame or anything. I'm just trying to go back and see what happens to the child when they're treated in this way. And I tell it, like I explain my part of it, I am trying to create safety. And then when a child deals with that in the classroom and they're not feeling safe with the adult, that they can just speak if there's something going on. What can I do as a parent more than just sticking up for my child? And I try and give some education, but I am just a parent. What needs to be done? What's the solution?
Okay, is this over to me again? Yeah, do you mind if I jump in? Can I jump in here?
Absolutely.
Okay, so look, we means Klal Yisrael, we have to work on this together collaboratively. The schools cannot be expected to do this alone, and nor can parents. We're either going to do this together as a collaboration, or it's not going to work. The question, really, the comments that were just made included the word safety a number of times. And I have no suffix at all that that's what children need to experience and feel is safety, both at home and at school. That means it can't be just safe for someone who is a naturally inspired learner. We can't have it just the 20% who are just good at this naturally, who've matured enough, have enough kishron, never experienced any form of trauma, don't have learning disabilities, don't have ADD, don't have impulse disorders, they don't have any executive functioning problems, they don't need medication, they don't need any extra tutoring, and they come from fabulous homes where the parents themselves had this wonderful life themselves and are able to communicate safety to their kids. We have to address the fact that there are many, many kids hurting and struggling, and safety is indeed the key. That means how we communicate, not we give up the rule, structure, and discipline. Kids need it at home and they need it at school. But we have to work out a way together, collaboratively, to administer the rules, structure, and discipline in a loving way. That's the first ticket that everyone has to do. And anyone who doesn't know how to do it needs to go and learn how to do it. Because if we don't connect the kids in a loving way, if they don't love going to school, if they don't feel loved by their mechanchem, their teachers, and loved by their parents, if they don't feel truly loved for who they are, if they have to hide who they really are and how they really feel, because if they don't hide it, they're going to get criticized, they're going to get in trouble. If we don't change that, we're never going to help the kids, never. Child has to be safe to be a work in progress. That means they're not perfect human beings. They're kids, for heaven's sakes. They're little kids who are struggling to grow up and work out how to live life. And safety is the first. I love the question because it addresses the key issue. With safety, there's connection. Without safety, there's distance, there's disconnection. In all work in trauma, all trauma work, what is trauma? Trauma is the reaction to an experience that made me feel incredibly unsafe, so I disconnect. What we have to do is work out how to reconnect with the kids so that they're not judged by their grades. They're not judged by whether or not they're fabulous learners or naturally tzanua. They're judged by their pneumius, by the yesod of who they really are. They're judged by their honesty. They're judged by their trying. They're judged because they're a person. We see their etzem, their atzmius, their pneumius, and we can communicate, yes, I love you for exactly who you are. You're not an inconvenience. You're my child, and I'm here to help you. The dogish has to shift where children feel that our reaction, the adult world's reaction to them, is not one of frustration, disappointment, where they're inconveniencing us, where we embrace them, accept them, and are ready to do the hard work of helping them grow up.
Russell, can we jump to the next question?
Please.
So you're on.
Okay, so first of all, I just want to thank you both for this conversation. And it's as a teacher who's been teaching for the past 15 years, both and mostly in high school, a little bit in elementary school now. I feel like you articulated things that as a teacher, I struggled with, because what I taught 15 years ago to my girls as a Navi teacher, and they would hear this Rashi or this Ramban and be inspired by, I spent a while recently, in the past 5 years or so, just noticing that the girls weren't experiencing it in the same way and really struggling and I, Baruch Hashem, I'm in an out-of-town school. It's a wonderful school. They care about every student. Those issues we don't have specifically, but there was a struggle of the students to kind of integrate it. And I realized that when I'm teaching Navi, the students, if they don't know, just like you said, that they are a neshama, no matter what they do, then I'm innocently, as a teacher, kind of reinforcing all this negative things of all these messages that Hashem is giving to Klal Yisrael. So what I ended up doing this year, which I actually said, we can't open our Navis yet, because I don't want to be responsible for teaching you mistakes until you understand what kind of relationship we have with Hashem, what is the role of Klal Yisrael, if we're talking about Yoshua and getting to Eretz Yisrael, where we fit in the timeline of history, and that we are a neshama. I use Rebbe Tzimtzum, the idea of a Shabbos lamp. The light is always on. You might cover it up, but you're always good. And then once they kind of had that, then we did a Scholas Navi party in the beginning of November, and I made sure that they understand it. I reviewed it with them because I wanted. And then what was beautiful is that then we created an essential question: why are we learning Navi? What's the point of this? And the essential question that they created was something along the lines of, how can we learn Navi in a way that we can hear the wisdom of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, so we can get to know the neshama of Hashem, which is a part of Hashem, the neshama that we have within us, which is a part of Hashem, so we can be our best selves and fulfill Klal Yisrael's mission. And then as we're learning, we're going back to that question, because girls would say to me, teachers say I have to know this meforish for the test, but what about for life? What does this have to do with my life? And so finally, I felt I'm open to. First of all, I feel like I now understand a little bit more of what's the rationale behind some of the things that I'm seeing. And as a teacher, like the teacher that you said, innocently, I was teaching Navi and giving tests. I didn't mean to, but I see that in that process because somehow our kids they don't have the same foundation of these Emunah concepts or basic, they're just getting Pasuk Rashi, but they don't know why they're getting Pasuk Rashi.
Exactly. Listen, first of all, can I just tell you, it is heartwarming to hear. See, I know that mechanchim and mechanchas like yourself exist. Our system is packed with really caring people who are worried about what they're seeing, because you see the shift in the world. Textual-based work in high school, and everyone starts falling asleep. It's like they can't do it anymore. In the old days, everyone did texts and reducts and Rashi's, no problem. Today you do that and the whole class falls asleep. Everyone's nodding off. You see the difference. Look, let me put it this way. Again, I want to be clear. I love it. I want to make it better. My passion is, I have no negative criticism at all. I want to make it better and have less kids hurting, and we can do it. And I think, but often, Claudia, I think there are 3 shifts that need to happen throughout the system. And if all the mechanchim and the mechanches would embrace this, and parents will embrace this and demand this, maybe changes will happen. I know changes will not happen by another article in the Mishpacha magazine or me. That's not going to make changes happen. If the grassroots of parents and mechanchim and mechanchas recognize the shift has to change, it has to, for our survival, then things will change. And here's the three things I'd like to suggest. First one, I've said very clearly, that all children to flourish need rules, structure, and discipline. Anything other than that, we just wreck the kids. It's just not fair to them. We have to give them the rules, structure, and discipline, but we have to do it and train people, everyone, parents and mechanchim and mechanchas. We have to train everybody how to do it with love. So the child has no suffix on earth at all that when we administer those rules, structure, and discipline, it is for the best interest of the child. It is not about the efficient functioning of the moisad or the home. We have to shift away from that. The kids in this generation, why? That's a different Coach Menachem show to understand why it changed. That's a different, that's not the nicer tonight. But the fact is it did change. And because it changed, it's crucial that we get the message across to children. We're doing this for your benefit, not for the efficient functioning of our school or the efficient functioning of our home. If we get kids helping before Shabbos at home, it's not because a mother is overwhelmed and distraught and frustrated, and therefore she's running around forcing everyone into avodas parach to try and help her get Shabbos ready. It's that it's only healthy. It's healthy and mature to help out, to learn how to be, caring for the home. So we want to bring you into that for you, for your benefit. So you'll grow up like a healthy, mature, and responsible person. But it's not about efficiency because we can't cope. How am I meant to get it done if you don't help? It's the wrong message in this generation. It doesn't inspire and it doesn't connect. So the first shift has to be that all rules, structure, and discipline, say at home and say at school, are conveyed in a manner where the child realizes it is child-centered. It is not, the messages I'm saying are not centered on efficiency for my school, my moisad, or my home. It is centered on you. That's where we want to go. We want to help you with this so you can grow up healthy. That's the first shift. The second shift, in my opinion, has to be that we recognize that focusing in schools on the best 10% or 5% kids in the class is a crime. I'm saying it straight. It's a crime. It's criminal. To leave everyone else behind, where the joy and pleasure of teaching the best kids, and we, as if we actually think that we're inspiring the rest of the class to be like the natural learners who do this easily. This is a crime because we're leaving everyone else behind feeling stupid. And that's criminal, that we should do that with Torah. What we have to do is find the average, that we have to learn how to teach to the average kid in the class. Incidentally, the resource room at the bottom will shrink, which will save us a fortune of money because it costs a fortune, because so many kids are disabled from learning because the standard is just way beyond them. And if we would make the standard the average kid in the class, we would embrace most of the children. The resource room at the bottom would shrink, and instead we could make a voluntary, but you don't have to, but if you wish to, you could volunteer to go into an advanced track class once a day. You can come out and be advanced if you're really good at it. You're welcome to do it. You don't have to. If you want to, make an advanced track for those who wish and would like to be, and they happen to be gifted, and they get bored in the middle, and they can they can volunteer to be tested and go out to a higher level class for part of the day, and they can steig us. We won't stop steiging. We'll elevate all of Klal Yisrael, and we will connect most of the children to feeling they're actually part of something because they can relate to the learning level because it's on a level they can understand. This second shift is crucial, and it's pasha criminal that we should keep having a standard that's way beyond the average kid in the class. We have to work out what is the average level and teach to that. I'm sure it's not impossible to do, In fact, I'm sure it's possible. That's the level. That's the second shift we have to move to. Get rid of. We're not we're creating an elitism in Klal Yisrael. That's not what Hashem meant. Klal Yisrael is everyone. Tzibur is Sadiqim Beinanim V'Rishayim. We're all the Tzibur. We're all part of Klal Yisrael. We cannot make it where the elitist, the best of the best, is the one who's academically gifted, is suddenly the best of the best. That's ridiculous. It's a crime. That's the second shift. The third shift, in my opinion, is something that I found so bizarre, I can't grasp how we missed it in Klal Yisrael. Mesilas Yesharim says, in the beginning, in the Alpha, he says, Ika Metzias ha'adam ba'olam hazeh. The Ika Metzias of a person in this world is lasos mitzvahs, do mitzvahs, la'avoid, serve Hashem, and there's a third one, which almost no one knows. It's amazing to me. Amazing, shocking. We're good at mitzvahs, teaching mitzvahs, halacha. We're good at la'avod. We push the kids to avoid Hashem. What's the third one? Lamed b'nisayon. Ika metzias ha'adam ba'olam hazeh is lasas mitzvahs labed v'lamed b'nisayon. Handle the nisyonis of life. To me, it's a plia atzuma that we've not embraced this in our school system, where we ought to be having age-appropriate, once-a-week conversation with the kids on your level, each age level, Lamed B'Nisayon class, once a week. What are the nisyonis of your level? And every level, every age has different nisyonis they're dealing with. It can't be hard to work it out. What are the bullying? It doesn't start in third grade with internet. That's later on. But there's bullying. There's benod mechles, getting along with friends. There's chesed, there's caring. There's coming on time. There's all sorts of things that we could talk about. Bringing your supplies with you to school. That's part of the Lamed B'Nisayon class. To make sure you have your pen. How do you make sure you have your pen and a pencil or whatever you need? Your supplies. We have to address Lamed B'Nisayon. It has to be, in my opinion, a once-a-week class where you sit around with the Rebbe or teacher and discuss it with them, where you talk about the difficult nisyonis, age-appropriate, and every grade it goes up, so that by the time we get to the level where they're aware there's such a thing as the internet, and they have the possibility to maybe get it, they've been experiencing school with love and kindness from their rebbeim, rule, structure, and discipline with love and kindness. They've been experiencing a level of learning that they could internalize because it was on a level that they could understand what it was. And they've been working through nisyonis, so it's not suddenly out of the blue. There's this devil called the internet. They've been working on a yesod called nisyonis. That life is full of nisyonis. There's a framework within which we can understand the nisyon of the internet and everything it brings, because they've been taught there is a framework called Lamed B'Nisayon, and it's why we're here. We don't have to be scared of it. We have to embrace there are nisyonis in the world. Hashem put us here for this purpose, and it has to be in their fabric and their blood that there's such a thing called nisyonis, and that we go through nisyonis in this world, age appropriate. So by the time we come to talk with the internet, it's one of the many nisyonis, and they have a framework and they have an understanding. It's not like isolating it, but we understand what it's all about. If we would have these three changes, I believe that we would shift to what is essentially a child-based focus, Sayed home and Sayed school, where the children would realize we as parents and the adult world, our interest is them, helping them be special. And they would see that we feel that way, and then they would feel that way. And if they feel that way, we wouldn't have these shilas later on about how do we deal with the internet and YouTube and Netflix and all these other shilas they come up. We wouldn't have those shilas because the kids would have had a framework in which they feel fulfilled, they feel appreciated, they feel loved. Most of all, they feel wanted. They feel wanted. And they have a framework that understands that the world is full of nisyonis. And so let's stop being frightened of the internet. Let's stop being, if we're going to have the one and only response to the internet is shmira, let's guard, let's yell and scream, let's threaten and frighten everybody with frightening drashas about the internet. If that's the only simple thing, if that's it, then we lost. We lost. We already lost, because we will not scare everyone out of it. What we have to do is nurture their relationship to Yadus in the first place, because their relationship is one that they enjoy, feel loved and appreciated. We have to put the internet in a context where not only do we do shmira, which we have to do, obviously, and we have to have gedarim and rules, and because the internet's so dangerous, not just shmira, but on the contrary, it's in a framework where it's one of the many nisyonis HaKadosh Baruch Hu put in this world, and actually it's a to'eles for us. And we look at us, we're all on the internet. We're all on the internet. Look at us tonight. Here we are, using it appropriately in a productive way. And we have to teach our children, we cannot use fear, just fear and shmira, because the kids don't relate to it. It doesn't mean anything to them. That's
Russell, murdered.
Thank you so much. I would love if, through Coach Menachem, I would love to have other teachers that we could work together to kind of create this kind of thing. That would be wonderful. Thank you so much, Rabbi Russell. That was amazing.
Okay, you're welcome.
Rabbi Russell, a lot of other topics we want to cover tonight. We're just getting warmed up, but there's so many good questions coming in. Can we go to more good questions? Can you handle it?
Let's go.
Okay, you're on.
Okay. First of all, wow. I'm like so insecure to even ask my question now, because I was so wowed by everything you just said. I took notes on it. And really quickly, because it ties into my question in response to that, about the internet, when all the rabbis were saying how no internet, they made a whole thing about no internet. And then everyone shut down because of COVID. And I thought it was and then everyone had to go on Zoom. I thought it was a perfect opportunity for the rabbis to come back and tell everyone, look, Hinderlach, we said all this, but here there's this thing with Zoom, and they could have even used it as an opportunity, and they didn't, and it was a missed opportunity. But I want my real question that I wanted to ask you here was that I went to a school where 50% of my grade went off the derech, and I believe, and I've been exposed to a lot of people who have gone off the derech, and I really believe that many people do go off the derech because people believe that that Judaism is really black and white to a certain extent, and we've been taught, to believe that Hashem could do no wrong. And I believe that. But I think because, Hashem is so abstract and we can't visualize it, right? But, in order for relationships to flourish, there needs to be the full gamut of emotions, right? Including rage, disappointment, and all those, feelings, right? So my question really is it possible that people who go off the derech don't believe that they could be upset with Hashem? And by upset, I mean like that I could say, I believe that what happened to me, not that I think what Hashem did was wrong, but like, Hashem, I'm so upset that this happened. And I know that this might be what's best for me, but like, that because in order for something, for a relationship, we need repair within a relationship.
Can I interrupt you? Do you mind if I interrupt you? I think I got the question.
Great.
For the brevity and time, I think I got the question. And we had agreed before we did this that we weren't going to go into tonight the off the derech sugya. We're going to stay with the 6, but I want to address it just very, very quickly for you. But then I would like to get back to the 60% hurting kids in the system that we want to focus on. But just a quick comment to you. Kids who go off have experienced trauma. And trauma disconnects you. when kids react, it's bad enough what the 60% experience of feeling somewhat tolerated instead of we fell over them, we love them, we're so happy. Imagine if we would relate to the 60% the same way we as parents related to them when they were born. How much nachas did we have when we held them when they were babies, when we played with them and cooed with them and enjoyed them? If they would have that feeling of caring and love, they'd be fine, but they don't. So it's bad enough they feel that feeling to begin with, but then some form of trauma strikes. And trauma is about disconnecting. So they're disconnected in the first place. And then trauma said to them, I don't feel safe in this system. Kids don't go off because of philosophy. The philosophy comes afterwards. The philosophy is part of a child trying to work out how to make sense of what happened to me. Kids go off because they're in horrible pain and they feel frightened, hurt, and rejected, and they disconnect for safety.
That's Rabbi Shimon. I'm sorry for jumping in here. In 32 years as a therapist, you have probably encountered directly, indirectly, in your office, out of your office, hundreds, maybe thousands of kids who have left Yiddishkeit. Could you be very straight and honest with us? Has there ever been a case of a kid, a boy or a girl, who has been alienated from Torah and mitzvahs because of a Yetzer Hara that said, I had a great family, I love my life, but I just have these bad midos, and I hate God, and I hate Tefillah, and I hate Shabbos? Ever?
No. Not one.
Wow.
Not one. In fact, I once spoke at a conference about love, and a family came to me afterwards, were very, very hurt. And they were rightly so, because they loved their son tremendously, and he went off. And they said, he loves us too. I went out of my way and I took this boy out for dinner twice to see if I could work out what was the trauma, what was it, what is it that's happened to him. And we're not getting into that sugya tonight. Again, that's a different sugya, which I'm happy to get into. And I couldn't work it out, and I was perplexed. One of the maybe hundreds of thousands of children directly and indirectly through the parents I worked with, there was one that I couldn't work it out. Every single other child turned out to be one of two traumatic experiences, one of two. It was either sexual trauma of some sort. You see, look, let me put it this way. All children in the Haredi world, in our frum world, the whole frum world, the Shomer Shabbos world, our world, all children build their lives around two pillars. There are simply two pillars that hold their lives till they work out what to do with the rest of their lives. These are the two pillars of Yadus. And the pillars for children around which their lives are built are learning and tznius, hatznei aleches. Both the girls, obviously, and even the boys with hatznei aleches, shmiras anayim, shmiras aguf, hatznei aleches, tznius and learning. When either of these two are interfered with, these two pillars on which a child's atzmis, their life is built. See, tznius and learning isn't something we do. It's who we are. It's very different. It's not something you just do. Whereas you have your life, a solid life, and you happen to do this too. It isn't like that for a child. For a child, learning and tznius are what they believe their lives are, the pillars of their lives on which their lives are built. It's the foundation of their life. When either of these two, that's why molestation, sexual abuse, destroys children completely, because it takes one of the pillars of Yadus,
right,
of their lives and takes it from them. And when kids either are not capable of learning, or they have de facto learning disabilities, real or ones that have happened because of life's the bottom line is they're not able to learn either because the level is simply too high for them, or they have a schwache Kopf, or they have a problem that interferes in their lives. They have sorrows in their lives that they're dealing with that stops them having an open mind to learn. When either of these two pillars are compromised, a child collapses internally and they go off for safety.
Right.
That's why kids go off.
So you're saying trauma doesn't mean the kid was molested. Trauma could mean that he's sitting a few years in a classroom and feels like a loser.
Well, there's no question that learning trauma, when I first mentioned the words learning trauma, since those days, I've had the schus to talk to some of the world famous people, the secular people who are mechadshim in the world of trauma. When I told them about learning trauma, it was such an eye-opener to them, what I told them we're dealing with. And in fact, they didn't have these words before. There is a sugya called learning trauma. I dare say if I had the money, someone came to me with enough money, I will prove this. Just like you do MRIs on a child's brain, and you can light up and see the trauma centers in the brain, learning trauma kids, that kids who could not learn and spent all those years in a school system that was primarily, the primary nachas is if you're a learner, and this kid couldn't learn, their brain will light up like any other trauma victim.
Rabbi Shimon, we throw around the word trauma now, day and night. Could we ask you as a professional to give us a 60-second definition? What is trauma? If my car is towed, I also call it trauma, but that's not trauma that you're talking about. If you're in Brooklyn and you get a ticket, it's also traumatizing. Tell us what trauma is.
We did this Coach Menachem show on trauma one time, but I'll say this much: the piece that counts is the result of trauma. It's a life-threatening or horrific experience or set of experiences, like in complex trauma, where it's a myriad of micro traumas, little events that add up cumulatively. And the net result is that internally, I feel like my life is threatened, my integrity. I feel horrified about life. And so I disconnect. I go offline to save myself. I go into a place of safety, fight and flight, so I can save myself. Essentially, my brain goes offline. I go offline for safety. That's what trauma does to a person. It disconnects you from the source that is frightening you. That's why this shul came to me. Can I do a trauma group? They know it's trauma. They said it to me to try and get them back into shul because they feel they're scared. Their experience was so hurtful in shul. They just got to stay away from it.
So a boy or a girl that's suffering from trauma, forgive my bluntness, has no bechira. They have no free choice.
The Nekudas HaBechira has shifted to a different place. They have choice to be safe, and they're choosing to be safe. Right. That's really what's happening.
So their choices to go away from Yiddishkeit are sometimes the healthiest that they can.
Sure, a kid that smokes that smokes marijuana or drinks. Why is drinking so prevalent? Unfortunately, in the yeshivas, because kids need to disconnect. They didn't decide to become alcoholics. There just is so much pain. There's so much pain that when they drink, they feel less pain. And when they smoke weed, they feel less pain because they're hurting. I don't think of trauma as a black and white, you're either traumatized or not. There's a spectrum, of how it affects people. But the essence of trauma is it disconnects you. You disconnect. Kadosh Baruch Hu made us in a way that when you get threatened, your life, your integrity is threatened, and you're afraid for your life, you disconnect. You fight or flight. You fight it or you run from it. You get away from it.
Or you freeze.
That's right. That's also a way of safety. And then the kids, kids who are disconnected because they feel like I'm such a worthless, stupid person because I can't follow the Gemara, or I can't follow the Mishnayos, or I can't follow the Radak. And they disconnect and go into freeze mode or flight mode, and then they get yelled at for not being cooperating and not learning and not being attentive, and you don't have your finger on the place, which simply drives them further away into a world of pain and fear. That's the sugya of trauma. And learning trauma is as real can be. It's no different than all the other forms of trauma. But no, I have never seen ever a kid that it was no 11 or 12-year-old has a deep philosophical belief system that then makes him go off the derech because of, comparative religion. He's not sure if really is right. There's no such thing. I've never seen one. Any philosophy, any question.
Don't they get sometimes the off the derech cornflakes sometimes, aren't they into that?
Right, exactly. No kid ever went to ShopRite and got the off the derech cornflakes to make sure every day, let me eat these cornflakes, I'll go off the derech. Gewaldig. There's no such thing ever happened. On the contrary, they're all push-outs. They're not dropouts, they're push-outs. If we would give them a way to be in, they wouldn't have left.
So you're saying something incredible. What you're saying is that what we for thousands of years called the good old Yetzer Hara, today it's brokenness. It's brokenness, huh?
Yeah, sure. The kids, no one's going off because of poverties and pogroms. You don't have to be a world-famous historian to realize that poverty and pogroms, take a look in most of the yeshiva world, poverty and pogroms is not the problem. That's not why kids are going off. Adarabah, kids don't want to go off, but we're making them feel we don't want you. When we went to yeshiva, we were the children born after the war. Right? We were born after the war. We went to yeshiva. Do you know that our Rebbeim, the Sheirus HaPleita, who taught us, the Gedolei Yisrael who taught us, they clearly made us feel we are wanted in Klal Yisrael. Those of us that came, there weren't that many. It wasn't like today. When we came, they made us feel they needed us. They wanted us. And they never graded us. They wanted us. That, unfortunately, is not the experience of the 60%. And until we recognize that and we make subtle shifts, call it shifts if you don't like the word change. I call it change because I name it for what it is. But call it shifts if you're more comfortable. Until we make the shift that the 60% of kids, good, nice, lovely people, Jewish kids, our children, till we make them feel wanted and valued. Why would they want our system? Why? And how would they protect themselves if we give them no chinuch in working out how to handle nisyonos, and all we do is yell at them and get angry with them and make them feel less wanted?
So Reb Shimon, you're saying that when I'm watching a child who has trauma leaving Yiddishkeit, I have to understand that this is actually the best thing that this person can do for himself or herself to protect themselves under the circumstances, and I could never blame them as never. They're broken.
Never. On the contrary, and it's amazing when you understand it, when you're wise enough and knowledgeable enough to reach inside a hurt child and understand that the trauma is the gairim. That's why, I want to tell you, parents come to me crying. I look at my neighbors. I don't think I did a worse job than they did. My neighbors, my sisters-in-law, I don't think I did a worse job. How come my kids are struggling? The answer is always 100% trauma. Because if kids are not resilient to begin with, then comes trauma, they can't. And the 60% aren't resilient. And one of the reasons they are not resilient is because they feel they're tolerated, they're not wanted. They're not the shufra. They're not desired. They're not b'nei b'chayre Yisrael. They're not looked at with unconditional love. You are my Klal Yisrael. And they can't imagine why, by the way.
So to give musar to such a child is an act of murder.
I want to tell you, I asked this shaila to Rabbi Leib, Zech Tzadik Kodesh Lebracha, Rabbi Leib Schneider. I asked him, you have two boys in bed. They don't get out in the morning. One is lazy. He's got midas ras. And one is struggling with his Teves, perhaps, with depression, with anxiety. He's struggling. He's got like a chol nefesh. He's struggling inside with a emotional problem. How do I know which is which? So Shiva said to me, like my nafkamina. I said, it's huge. Nafkamina is, if it's midas, you do musa. If it's chol nefesh, you do tipul rufu'i. You help them. You reach inside. So he said, well, maybe you do both. I said, chas v'shalom. I said, if you do tipul rufu'i with someone who's lazy, it does nothing really. But if you do musa on someone who's emotionally damaged, you're a mazik.
Killing him.
The Rosh Yeshiva thought for a minute, and then he looked at me and he said, you're mechuyev to do tipul, in this generation, this is what he told me, you're mechuyev to do tipul rufu'i. You have to do refuah first. And if it all fails, which by the way it doesn't, but if it all fails, and you do tipul refuah, you reach a child emotionally and understand his struggles or her struggles, and you help them. If that fails, then you can consider musa, which incidentally it doesn't when you do the work properly. That's what the Shiva told me.
So Reb Shimon, in a spirit of no diplomacy, so one of the 60% boys, he's now 14 or 15 years old, he comes home in the summer or in winter break, and he's walking around the kitchen without a yarmulke. This cute little angel is now walking without a yarmulke, and your 13-year-old, 14-year-old girl is now walking around almost like Chava and Adam before the Eitz Hadas. And the instinct of the father and the mother is to do what every Jewish parent does, l'cha'oira, which is?
Which everyone does. The wrong thing, you mean?
You tell me, which is musar. In our house, we don't walk around without a yarmulke. In our house, we don't walk around with such a type of outfit or no outfit. If you want to live in my house, these are standards, and I'm doing it for you. I'm doing it for you. Because the Gehenim is hot. Gehenim is hot. And the Rebbeinu Shalom has expectations. It's for you. It's not for me. I love you. But in my house, you don't do this.
In my house, because this is a house of Torah. And we didn't survive Hitler and Stalin and the Yevanim and the Nebuchadnezzar, Asher Teves, to walk around without a yarmulke. And I'm serious, because I get up 4 a.m. every day to learn Daf Yomi, and I do Yerushalmi too. And to see my 14-year-old, this is the father or the mother. Is he right? Is he wrong? Is he dead wrong? Is he a shayfich damim b'shaygig? Should he go to Ari Mikvot?
Rabbi, I have to just read something somebody wrote. Can I read something?
Okay.
I just want to say that I'm listening to this and I'm crying my eyes out. I have struggled so much as a child and as a teenager. I feel so validated with everything that's being said. Sorry, continue.
Thank you. I want to tell you, Usha, when you read those, see, I'm so in touch with that, it brings tears to my eyes, because I'm fully aware of the pain and suffering, the unnecessary pain and suffering that goes on in Klal Yisrael. It's what I've sat with for 32 years, what I see. And whoever wrote that, I'm with you. Let me go back to why. Can I answer your question?
Please.
The answer is like this. I understand. I totally get it. Why parents are frightened, sometimes angry, and they think at that moment when they lack knowledge of how to respond, they fall back on what they experienced from their parents in their childhood, because they have nothing else there. They don't know of another malach, not because they're bad and want to hurt their kids. Chas v'shalom. They love their kids. You wait and see if someone else starts up with that kid of theirs. They'll come ferociously out in the house to protect their kid. They love their kids, but they have no other knowledge. No one taught them yet that what you're meant to do is look away from it and then take your kid out for supper. Take him out for dinner and talk to him and see, I see you're not wearing a yarmulke. You must be hurting. What have I missed? I'm so sorry. What have I missed? Clearly, I don't know you, and I'm embarrassed. I'm ashamed that I don't know you. You're my son. You're my daughter. What have I missed? Help me know you so that maybe I can help you. And if you can say that with the love and the tears and the pain and self-awareness that we missed our kids, we didn't understand them, we didn't feel them. And your kid will tell you. They tell me in the office, they tell me they wish their father or mother would take them out and just ask that, why do you think they're not wearing the yarmulke? That's the result of a problem. That's not the problem. If you see the yarmulke, it's a red sticker on a troubled neshama traveling through this world, and that lack of a yarmulke says fragile, handle with care. Take them out and talk to them and simply reflect back to them. I see your tznius went down. To me, that means you're hurting. You're my child. You're hurting. Tell me what it's about. Maybe I can help you. And I'm so sorry. I obviously missed what's going on in your life. And I'm embarrassed and I'm ashamed. How can I help you?
But this boy who feels disconnected from his father or mother or both, because if he would have been connected, he would have been more resilient, but he's not connected, looks at his father and says, get out of my life. And he uses words that I'm not going to repeat here in public. And the father plotzes, the poor guy. He never heard such words from a child. And when he used that word once, he was smacked up for 20 minutes. He never used it again. Father says, go out with you, with a loser like you, and he doesn't use the word loser. That's that's already a nicer word. What do you do now?
Again, see, what we're doing is we're dancing at the far edge of the result of problems that have been bubbling up.
Exactly.
Most kids, most boys, for example, are aware that they're disconnected, even the ones, the 60% who stayed with the system. And they still dress more or less from, and they look more or less from. They just, gave up so much, disconnected to so much of Yadus, that they could put on a heater on Shabbos if it's cold. They could, put the air conditioner on if it's hot. They dress the whole lavush, but the inspiration and connection is dissipating, is gone. It started in 7th grade Hanukkah. I'm not talking about trauma victims now. I'm talking about kids who by 7th grade, when their Rebbe said to them, boys, you better get your engines firing now, or you're never going to get into a Masifta next year. You can't wait till 8th grade. You got to do it now. And every kid hears that line, you'll never get into a Masifta. And they're already aware that I'm not really wanted, and I'm going to have to fight to be accepted as a Jew, as a Yid. And game over, 7th grade. The damage starts. And then you wonder when they're 14, 15, all these years later, 4, 5, 6 years later, how do we deal with it then? When we already missed the boat. We have to tune in much better to where our kids are at. Understand and recognize the simonim and stop trying to get yarmulkes back on their heads, but rather embrace the yarmulke that's disappearing. We used to talk about the ones, the boys created a crater. They had this hair with a crater in the middle. You could drop a yarmulke in there where no one will see it, in the hairstyle. We have to recognize the simonim are telling us about something deeper. It's like, God forbid, a person gets, an adult gets like lesions on his body. And instead of going to a doctor and saying, what's happening? They put, cover up and a Band-Aid on it, thinking that's going to help him. It's not about getting the yarmulke back on his head. It's about inquiring in a loving way, what's happened inside you that makes that yarmulke come off? That's the first conversation. If you have that conversation properly, you probably won't need to say anything about the yarmulke going back on at home. You know why? Because the yarmulke served its purpose. Taking that yarmulke off served its purpose. My father listened to me and heard my pain. And you may not need to even talk about it. And how idiotic that we're going to start ranting and raving about getting the yarmulke in my house, the way you just described it, and completely miss the point and bury our children in deeper pain and anguish, where now it's not the yarmulke, who knows what, next it's weed or whatever else, or a girlfriend, because the kid's in pain. We have to wake up and realize the kids are hurting, and we have to change the system so they don't hurt. And as parents, we have to tune in to those early signs of hurting and inquire about the hurt and the pain and be willing to go there with our children. Because Rabbi Shimon, if not, why do we have them? You know how many kids feel that like, why'd you have me if you don't really care about me?
Walk me through this. This girl, this 13, 14-year-old, is saying disgusting things to her mother and father. You want to go out with her. She doesn't want to talk to you. You call a psychiatrist and a psychologist in NYU. You don't call Shimon Russel. They call an NYU psychiatrist. And they tell you, after 3 weeks of talking to her, she's suffering from defiance disorder, depression, and anxiety.
Okay, this is not the 60% again. We've gone off track.
But this is the 60% that became this.
Yeah, this is no longer the 60%. She came out of the 60%. She came out of the 60%. Yeah, so that this where she is now needs a whole different tipul. This is Kesha Nafshi work.
Russell, I want to go back to the 60%. I want to go into one topic that I think we can clarify a little bit, okay?
Yeah, please.
Why are so many parents often in denial or out of touch with what's actually going on with them? Why sometimes it takes such a long time where they're just not there? Can you give some advice, first of all, for the parents? We're talking about, again, the 60%. They see the kid is struggling. They know a little bit. They'd rather just avoid it, or they're not shopping. What's going on?
First of all, no parents make a logical, rational decision. They're just ignoring it. No such thing. Parents are frightened out of their wits. Parents are fully aware that if I don't get my kid to somehow shteltzu to school quickly, they'll probably be thrown out, and or they won't get into a high school, and or they won't get into a Beis HaMedrash or seminary, and or they won't get a shidduch. Parents are terrified about the consequences of what's happening. And unfortunately, unless they've been exposed and educated to a different mahalach of how to reach their kids, then their entire focus is to try desperately to either get their kids to behave, and or they disconnect, they go into denial because they're terrified. HaKadosh Baruch Hu made all midas, right? We didn't invent midas. All midas were made by Hashem, including denial. I ask parents very often, were you told by your school or anyone else you're in denial about your kid? And they get very, very hurt. And yes, we've been criticized that we're in denial and yelled at we're in denial. So I tell parents, in my humble opinion, denial is a God-given gift to help you when you're in such a difficult, traumatic situation that you don't know what to do. And the chances are, if you do something, it'll be wrong and make it worse. So if you are in denial, without knowledge how to help your kid, then do me a favor, stay in denial for a while we work out what the mahalach is, what the approach is to help your kid. You just stay in denial for the time being. That's why Hashem gave you that midah. It's fascinating that when you tell this to someone, they almost always come out of denial immediately. And I tell them, please don't, because the chances are you don't know how to handle it. Can you handle this with love? Can you take your kid out for dinner and talk to them in a loving way while they're sitting there not wearing a yarmulke? Or your daughter's sitting there and she's open on top? Can you sit there with her in a restaurant and talk to her about, her heart and her pain and her hurt? Well, if you can't, denial may be a very good option for you. Maybe you should stay there for a while we help you work out the skills for how to handle it. Rebusha, I finished.
Do you have somebody live, Rebusha?
Yeah. Let's go. You're on.
Hi, Rabbi Jacobson. Hi, Rabbi Russell. How are you? Thank you so much for this amazing.
It's the reunion over there.
Yeah. You can't take a break now.
That's right. No, he's got it. We got it.
Go. He's here. Go.
Okay. So going back to the.
Just went to get some water.
Oh, for sure. Going back
We
to
slept him out of bed.
I'm sorry.
Let the man get a cup of water. Yeah.
Going back to the
see
60.
you at the conference, right?
Yes, of course.
Of course. Looking forward.
We're going to bring a big crew.
One second.
big
Mrs.
crew with
Friedler,
us.
Mrs. Friedler, I want you to answer this question. I'm asking you a question. You ready?
Yeah.
How important is it for parents to come to Kesha Nafshi that have little struggle, any type of struggling thing? How important is it for it to come?
Very, very important. Whatever spectrum of teen you have, I call this a chinuch Shabbaton. Nothing to do with necessarily struggling teens. It's chinuch for all parents.
Okay. Sorry, continue with your question.
Thank you.
Okay. So back to the 60%. We learned all the things that Rabbi Russell has taught me for sure. And I listened to a lot of speeches from Rabbi Jacobson. And we're following the Mahalach with the mainstream child who's in the regular Mossad. I heard everything that went on till now. At the end of the day, we're not changing. We're trying to change, but we can't, as the parents, our responsibility is the children. We're not going to change the Mossad. We're not going to change the way the yeshiva system runs. And when we have a child that's doing well in the mainstream, Baruch Hashem, we want to keep them in mainstream. The kids that we saw couldn't handle it. We took them out and we put them in amazing, amazing yeshivas that have helped them. But now we have a 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th grader who's in the regular mainstream Mesifta or elementary school. And we're giving them the resilience. We're giving them the 4 S's. But at the end of the day, they're still encountering, when they go to yeshiva, the things that you have discussed at the beginning of the show. We can't change the Menahel. We can't change a lot of the Rebbeim. Is it enough what we give them if we continue to, when they come home broken or hurt from something a Menahel did, or something in the system with the tracks being that you're saying, the top 10%, or the reward system, or that hierarchy of the 3 levels that Rabbi Russell mentioned earlier, we can't control that. So if we give them the Danish for getting up and going to Minyan, or if we give them the going out to eat, is that going to be enough when they get hurt by something that a Menahel does? At the end of the day, we can't knock the system to them because that's not healthy either. We want to show them that we respect the system, but sometimes the system is doing these things that are hurting them. What other suggestions do you have for parents?
Well, there's no question. When I first, Rabbi Waiwai, is it okay if I take this one? Okay. When I first saw in Dan Siegel's book, The 4 S's, when I first discovered that, it blew my mind.
Please explain it again, because not everybody knows it. Sorry, please.
So first of all, everyone should get Dan Siegel's book, Parenting from the Inside Out, and not just read it once, but read it twice or 3 times until you get it. Everyone should read that book, Parenting from the Inside Out by Dan Siegel. When I read the book, it validated so much of what I believed and what I was watching and seeing clinically with my clients. And one of the things I loved the most when I saw the 4 S's there, I've taken it and I use it frequently because I see it, he mentions it almost like in passing. It's very interesting. Doesn't make a big fuss out of it. But I do make a big fuss out of it, although the credit goes to him for where I first saw it. The 4 S's are the 4 S's that I call them of resilience: safe, secure, seen, and soothed. That means we as parents have to create the ability in our children to be resilient. That means to go through life and life's knocks and ups and downs and difficulties and struggles and problems. We can actually create resilience in our children so that when they finally get through this whole thing, they will come out healthy. And at least the way I approach it, the simplest most direct model I've used with my clients over the years and in my drushes is this model of safe, secure, seen, and soothed. That we have to make sure our children feel safe. Safety, partial safety. We're not going to scream and yell at them and get angry with them and beat them and threaten them and intimidate them. We're going to love them. We have to make sure they feel safe in the home environment, safe to tell us about their struggles, safe to tell us about their exposure to the world and things they've seen and experienced that are throwing them off, that they can feel safe with us to share with us who they really are. And they're not going to see an angry face or a frustrated look on their parents' face, but they're going to be embraced and loved and appreciated for their honesty. Children need to feel secure in their home with their parents' love for each other. They need to feel secure that the security of a Shabbos table, the predictability that the Shabbos table is a nice place to be at. It's warm and inviting. It's healthy. It's predictable. And Yom Tov is nice, and there's not this discomfort before Yom Tov, getting Yom Tov ready. That makes them insecure about life. They have to be secure about who they are and our belief in their inevitable maturity. They will inevitably mature, grow up, and be healthy human beings. Children have to be seen. We have to notice who they are. We can't just be mechanech the kids. Get the kids in the car, get the kids in bed. Let's get the kids to the park, the kids. We can't do that. We have to convey to our children that we thought about and recognize their unique qualities and talents, God-given unique qualities and talents, and that we rejoice in those talents and we reflect them back to our children so they know that we see it and they are seen for who they are. Not for who we want them to be, or not because of who we think our Masorah says they should be, but for who they are. They need to know we see them. And they need to be soothed that when they get hurt, whether it's a little kid falling off a tricycle, or it's a kid getting bullied at school, or getting yelled at by the manal, that they can rely on the fact that our first reaction to them in this generation today is that we soothe them. Not like when we went to school, if we got hit by a teacher, you dare not tell your father because he'll whack you for getting hit. You got hit, boom, don't get hit again. This generation today, that's rishus. In this generation, the first thing you do is soothe them. You say how hard that must have been for you, what a difficult experience that must have been. And afterwards, if you have to discover and discuss with them how it happened and what happened, do that later. Do that a few hours later. Wait till they come to you. But your job is to soothe them. And if you do safe, secure, seen, and soothed, read the book. You'll get all the information there. Parenting from the inside out. But if you make your kids feel that at home, chances are your kids will be resilient. And that despite the ups and downs of life, they will inevitably mature into healthy people as they matriculate and become young adults.
Okay, Rabbi Russell, let's get into one other topic over here now. Okay? I know we're running late. I want to try to cover a few more, okay?
Yeah.
Let's get into the topic of unconditional love, right? We hear a great deal about unconditional love, the obligation, the responsibility parents have regarding their children. With all this concur, my question is, what do we do? We hear very little about the children's obligation towards the parents. From child's aware that, the mitzvah kivud aveim, right? There's a lot of emphasis. So basically, my question is relevant. The mitzvahs that basically I want my children to be, to understand what it is. Like unconditional love, masking, but what about l'maaseh chinuch? Kivud aveim.
Okay, so this is a sentiment that's still held strong by a lot of people, that's based on a previous generation's relationship towards the parent-child relationship. The reality in today's generation, which is what's relevant to us, is if you do safe, secure, seen, and soothed, if we actually are interested in caring for our kids, in tuning in to who they are, if we go out of our way to be mechabed our kids and respect them properly and understand them properly, they will naturally respect and love us too. Whereas if we spend our children's childhood constantly questioning, constantly doubting, constantly fixing them, then we actually communicate to our kids that there's something wrong with you, and our kids will separate from us, and they're not going to be mechabed us properly. I'll tell you this, Rabbi Gamliel Rabinovich, Shlita, in his Sefer Tivat Torah. Now I'm just telling you what he writes. So I'm allowed to say this because he wrote it. I didn't say this. He said this. I want it to be clear. I'm just saying over what he said. And he wrote, and it's published. Rabbi Gamliel Rabinovich, Shlita, says in Tivat Torah a whole piece about the respect from Avram and Yitzhak as they went to the Akedah. Now Avram Avinu tuned in sensitively to Yitzhak. And he has a whole treatise on that Parsha Be'era about being sensitive to children. And over there he says the following, that his mother, he quotes his mother, I believe it was 9 or 10 generations Yerushalmi, his mother. He says, Ima Merasi, my mother, my teacher. He says, Milsa Bapumi de Masi Merasi. My mother used to say this over all the time. This is Rabbi Gamliel Rabinovich saying over his mother's Memra that she was 10 generations Yerushalmi. And she said, the Ilu Nasna HaTorah Kayim. If Torah was, it's a melitza, Rabbi Sai, she wasn't changing Torah. This is a melitza. This is like an expression, an idea that she said, Ilu Nasna HaTorah Kayim. If Torah was given today, Hayakasav Ba, it would have said in it, Kabed es bincha ve'es bitecha. Be mechabed your son and your daughter. Because the biggest chisaron today is that children do not feel respected, and that's why they don't respect us back. But if we respect our children and we tune into their struggles, their experience of life, their nisyonis, if we teach them about nisyonis, if we teach them about the inevitable struggles of life, and we tune in without judgment and criticism to their experiences, and they realize we are here simply to help you, then our children will be mechabed us. We don't have to give drushes about kibbud v'aim because it's teva, it's nature. They respect us because they admire us and they love us, and you don't ever have to mention it, ever. I can tell you that I have some of my children, and we've been through all sorts of struggles in our family, and I know that some of my kids feel this way. And I don't think once in my entire life I've ever demanded respect from any of my children. And yet they're incredibly nice and respectful towards me.
Rabbi Shimon, so here's my question. For this 60% of boys and girls, if I'm a father or a mother, a teacher, but especially parents, how do you identify that there's an ongoing trauma, which, as you said, may not be dramatic? It's not necessarily sexual abuse or violent physical or emotional direct abuse, which could also be, of course. But it could be a kid exposed to pornography in 5th grade, right, or 6th grade, which affects their puberty and creates trauma. It could be learning trauma. It could be just feeling like a loser. If I may add, it could be because of deeply spiritual and sensitive children who have deeper souls, right, and therefore feel much more pain. The Arizal and the Balatanya and the Vilna Gaon discuss souls that are traumatized by existence, by the tzimtzum, by the fact that Hashem's infinite presence is not manifested. That's also could be for a sensitive soul, can also be deep trauma. There's also intergenerational trauma, right? Epigenetics. We may be carrying the trauma of 2,000 years. So I'm a parent. How do I begin to identify that my child...
It's easy. It's very easy. It's like I said before, it's very easy. You see, all we have to do is pay attention. Just pay attention. And you notice, what you notice is the rough edges. You see a kid who's, are they really davening? I'm not sure they're actually davening. Are they really benching? I don't think so. You can see a kid, the 20%, their relationship to Yadus, to Torah mitzvahs, is azevi mini gedolim and tzidkonius. It's amazing to watch. They just are so tuned in naturally. Watch the 60% in contrast, and you'll see, hisrashlis, a weakness in their relationship to Torah mitzvahs. And that hisrashlis, instead of looking at it as was done always, midoris was looked at as a lack of midas, a lack, athlanus, recognized today has almost nothing to do with that at all. But what's really happening is that you're looking at a child who doesn't feel known. A child has to feel known. They have to be known by their parents. That means, look, the Gaon says, right? We have to go with mazal, says the Gaon, right? You have to go with mazal. That means like this. Chinuch cannot occur unless we reach inside our children to work out what is mazalai v'tivai. Well, who is he? What's his nature? What's her nature? You cannot take a framework from your own childhood, a picture that you feel either threatened by the mostas they're in and or threatened by your own previous generational struggles, and try to create a template and force it on a child that this is who you have to be. That is a guaranteed way to destroy a child's life. What we're meant to do is look inside. What is mazalo v'tivo? Who are you? And by the way, mothers know this. I never trusted mothers. I was mistaken. I was wrong. I was wrong. I had all my theories. I was dead wrong. But mothers know when you change a diaper, they already know that there's something different in this child to the other child. Mazalo v'tivo is different. Some babies lie there and just let their diapers be changed and they're cooing and oohing. And some, you need like 5 people holding the baby down just to change the diaper. And all sorts of different ones in between. Our children are all different. If you don't know what mazalo tivai, what's their nature, and you, like the Gaon says, and you're simply machrichai, you force them into a picture that exists in your head of who you think they should be, well, then you failed in chinuch. And chances are your kid will go off. And you'll notice the edges, the struggles, the insensitivity towards areas in Torah mitzvahs early on in life. You'll see it very early in life. Those insensitivities are not midas issues. They're actually a reflection of a child's neshama that's not being reached, felt, connected with. What we have to shift to as parents is being interested in knowing. The word is to know our child. My child craves to be known for who they are by me, their parent. And I have to make the effort to know them and then to reflect back to them that which I see and now know, and help them that be the best Jewish, healthy human being they can be now that I know who they are. The simanim of the lack of little bit of sneers or the lack of davening or getting up, for davening or benching or whatever, those little simanim help me tune in to understand who is my child in order that I can reflect that back to them, reach them, help them feel safe, and help create resilience.
What are practical tools that you would give a father and a mother to create this type of deep relationship, to give them the resilience that they could bounce back despite pain, despite their own challenges? Practical tools. If I'm a father, I come to you and say, help me. What should I do?
So look, the first tool for most people is to recognize that whenever you ever approach your children, ever, needing to say anything to them about any subject, whether it's Torah, whether it's, going to bed or brushing your teeth, ask yourself, does my body language, facial expression, and tone of voice convey to my child that I unconditionally love you? Because if it doesn't, then everything else is a waste of time. Everything else is a waste of time. We have to own up as parents that many of us were children of Holocaust survivors. Many of us were children from the war or grandchildren from Holocaust survivors. We're grandchildren, we're children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren from trauma. And we have to realize that our first reaction frequently to the challenges and problems of our children is a drawn face, a frustrated look, a disappointed, sad look, a tightening of the eyes. Tsarasayan, tsar, tightening of the eyes, the body, a sigh,
Rabbi Russel.
Yes.
Can I pause you for a second?
I don't know.
Okay. Can I jump into a live question? It's going to tie into what we're talking about now.
Please.
Okay, you're on.
Thank you. I was wondering, as somebody who is still in my trauma, and I want to be able to give all this to my child, but I'm not yet fully aware of my own unconditional love that I never received, or all these skills that I am not yet so well versed in. And my child is struggling. How can I give my child the skills when I don't yet have them myself?
Can I answer your question?
Yes.
So the answer is this. First of all, kol hakavod to you that as a parent you can be brave and honest enough to recognize and embrace that. Kol hakavod. Because it's not our kid's fault that their parent is a child of traumatic experiences in their own life where they've not recovered. So I would say two things. One is make it a chayv kaddish to take care of that yourself. Go get help.
And can I do that even without a spousal support?
Yeah. Look, this within the context of the framework of this program, it's hard to tell everyone individually whether you can or can't. That I can't tell you. But I can tell you that if you can, you should. And if you're not sure if you can, go speak to someone and work it out. How are you going to get the help you need? And in the meantime, get help to find the right language to communicate to your kids that I myself am still struggling. And I'm trying my hardest to overcome what I grew up with. Don't be afraid to share that with your children. They'll actually respect you more, not less.
Right. So my second part of that was how much to share with a healthy boundary.
Work that out with your therapist. I don't want to do that publicly because it's actually different for every person, but go get a professional to help you work out exactly how to do that so you can share what's necessary with your children so they can understand what's happening. And at the same time, they'll see how sincere you are about healing your own stuff, which will give them inspiration to heal theirs eventually. Get help. Get help. We owe it to our kids. We simply owe it to them. Asher, another question?
Well, what she just brought out, this brave young woman, was, I think, opens us up to a very serious question, and that is, so many of our responses to our children are coming from our trauma. Tati's trauma, Mommy's trauma, which means Tati and Mommy also don't have much choice. Their choices are so narrow and limited. They're also trying to survive, just like the 12-year-old. Tati, who's 50 or 40 or 30, is also trying to survive. So this guy is screaming or getting angry or smiling or whatever he's bribing, and he's completely traumatized. And his chinuch is from trauma. He doesn't even know it. On the contrary, he goes to his Rav or Mashpia or CBT therapist, and they have long conversations, and they tell him, learn more Musar, or start Daf Yomi, or go to Minyan for Mincha, or do more mitzvahs, and he means well. But his wife says something the next Shabbos, and he loses it. The poor guy is a trauma victim and he doesn't know it. And learning Mesilas Yesharim, which is an amazing thing, is not his problem. His problem is not information. His problem is trauma.
Yes. So first of all, you know that in the last year, we opened a Frum trauma recovery workshop in Detroit, fresh start. You can look it up. www.fsrc.com, I think, or .org. I'm sorry, I forget. I'm one of the directors there. I forget the website. Osha, you'll send it out. But yes, there's a.
I heard a famous line from somebody, Rabbi Russell, once with all this parsha. Okay, I heard this. Tell me if you ever heard this line. Everybody goes through a lot, and it's taka. It's not your fault. 100% it's not your fault, but it's your
obligation.
It's your responsibility.
I wonder who said that, right? It's your responsibility. We have to realize it is not our fault. No one asked to be traumatized. No one, we're slowly recognizing the role of trauma in so much of our parenting and our lives and our reactions and responses. We opened a fresh start to try and help people with that. We have Kesha Nafshi to try and help people with that. We have so many mahalchim today that are recognizing that it's not anyone's fault, but it is our collective responsibility to take responsibility, to repair our trauma so that we can love. Someone threw it up there. Thank you. I appreciate it. That we need to recognize that, and we got to work on it and be humble about it and honest about it. And at the same time, as I said before, we have to embrace Nisyonis, a part of our lives. Hashem put us in this world to go through Nisyonis. And it's through Nisyonis we grow. As many people who know me well know probably one of the first, Chassidish Wörter, I said. I'd like to say it's a Chassidish. Why? Can I say it? A good Chassidish word is where you put the comma. Am I right or wrong? You change the comma and you got a Chassidish word. So I said this word and it's rung true for me my whole life. And I know people resonate from it. We talk about Tsar Gidel Bonim, the pain of bringing up our children. And I have humbly and honestly recommended we move the comma. Tsar Gidel, comma, Bonim, the tsar of my Gidel, of me growing up, that pain of me fixing myself will come through the challenges I have with my children. If my children witness, that's my approach to it, then I make them feel safe and I make them feel secure and they love and respect me because they see I'm working on me. I'm trying to overcome my problems, my issues. And I hope I can inspire them by being a role model. I hope I can be the role model by working on me and fixing my issues, that I can be a true role model, which is 1,000 million times better than drushes and mussar and criticism. That's gone. That kufa's gone. That train has gone out the station. That ship has sailed. It's gone. The only inspiration we're going to give to our children today is when they recognize that we embrace our struggles humbly, we look at our own chesroinus humbly, and they see us working on it. They see us trying to overcome our own issues so we can love and embrace them and help them properly. That's the inspiration that will keep our kids from. Not drushes, not mussar, not lectures about Messiah, not more and more yelling, angry comments about Shmira and the internet. And remember, that's not going to keep our kids from. What's going to keep our kids close to us and close to our Messiah is when they see the inspiration for us as true role models, humbly and honestly being willing to face our own chesroinus, our own flaws, and work them through. It doesn't matter how old we are. Just keep working them through. When our children witness and see that, that will keep them close to us and close to our Messiah. All the rest is Hevel Havolim. It's all Yetzirah. It's all stories from the past. It's not relevant to the present. We have to be a role model of working on ourselves, We have to communicate to our kids that I want to know you. And when I see your flaws and chisaynus, it's so I could learn you better to see if I can help you. And that I abandon just trying to fix you and fix you and fix you as if you're some sort of inconvenience to my life. You're not. You're my precious child. You're my B'nai B'chari Yisrael. I don't care if you get to Memte Shai Duma. I'm there for you. So I brought you in this world. That's what my Chayv Kaddish is. Asher, I got to go.
Rabbi Russell, tonight was like off the charts, like beyond. Are you okay?
Yeah.
Was it too much for you tonight?
Reb Shimon, before we let you go, before we emancipate you,
Yes.
and we let you go, what you just said was very, very powerful. You just said that real education of children is about self-awareness and self-education. That's really what it's about. It's knowing my own triggers when my son comes into the kitchen.
Of course.
And that father who says, many fathers wrote, mothers wrote, I'm allergic to this child. I'm allergic. I go crazy. I can't look at him. He's such a disappointment. And you're saying, no. You're a disappointment to yourself. You haven't worked out your own rubbish.
But we all have it. We all have our rubbish, and we have to work it.
He's just triggering. He's just giving you an opportunity to go deeper into your own pain and childhood wounds. The Baal Shem Tov says everybody is a mirror. He's your mirror.
That's right. Tsar Gidl, comma, Bonin. The tsar of my Gidl will be through my children.
So I have to tell you, a parent wrote to me that they came to you. I had to clarify this because people get very upset. And they told you the following story. This is my last question. Their 14-year-old or 13-year-old is demanding a phone, a smartphone, day and night, incessantly. And they are frightened because we all know what smartphones are, even for adults. They're all addicted to it. And you ask the mother or the father, is she going to get it anyway without you? They said, yeah, in 6 months, probably 3 months, 2 months. You know, she's smart, she's brilliant. Everybody gets whatever they want. You know, you can't put them in a prison. So you said the relationship is more important than everything. If they're going to get it anyway, you get it so that they could be connected to you while having the phone, rather than having the phone and hating you. And this person says, how does a frum therapist, knowing what a smartphone is, tell parents literally to give, what do you call memtes shari tuma, to give this gun, this weapon to their daughter, and he's not even ashamed of it? Sorry for my blunt question. Instead of you telling the mother, you tell the girl, no, you want me to give you poison? You want me to give you some amavis and knock in my house? She wants to buy it? Let her destroy herself. I'm not going to destroy my kid.
So I'll tell you something I've learned over the years. I dashen frequently, both publicly and privately, about the dangers of the internet, in particular pornography, how it destroys people's lives. I see it with Chush, I see it in my office, I see it with so many hurt young men and women who get really damaged. And it's really hard to repair that damage from pornography. Creates fantasies and illusions that can never occur in real life. Leaves people lost and longing for something can never happen and never will. And they feel empty forever, especially when the programming was done from a very young age. I dashen vehemently against it. And what I've come to understand is that as damaging as that is, losing a relationship with your parents over that is worse. The disconnect from angry parents who fight and fight and fight over that is a greater damage to the long-term survival of your child than even pornography, which is horrendous. horrendous, that damage is worse.
Because it's the connection that can ultimately heal the addiction.
There's only one way our kids will stay close, if at all, to Torah mitzvahs and yadus. Struggling kids. There's only one way. It's because they want to be close to us, their parents, because they received love and kindness and Messiah from us. And if there's any chance of them keeping it, that's why in this day and age, I'm talking about now, that's the only chance you have that they'll want to keep it. And to lose and sacrifice your relationship over a futile fight, which you lost anyway, because they're going to go and get it anyway, rather than saying to them, Shefala, it's very, very dangerous, but I know you need it. We're talking about where the kid, I'm not saying you wake up one morning and announce to all your children, we're giving you smartphones. We're talking in a case where the kid was already severely rebellious and wanted this and needed this and was going to get it anyway. Imagine the difference in the relationship healing when the parent says, I understand your need. I'm with you. I'm with you. And you reinforce that relationship of love and understanding. Chances are your kids sooner or later will say, take this away from me. I know this is bad. I can't do this. Please take it from, which they do, by the way. Masha'en Kain, the risk of losing your relationship, there is nothing more damaging to your child's future than losing their relationship with you. It is indescribably worse than pornography, which is about as bad gets. Losing relationship with parents is worse.
So sometimes you're saying the parent is obligated, if they have any seichel and any emotion,
of course,
to go and purchase.
Of course, don't we give poisons to children that we happen to call them drugs, medication?
Morphine.
And we go to get prescription medication, which are poisons, and we give them to our kids when they're sick, and we give them to each other when they're sick.
Save their life.
To save their life.
So what is saying sometimes you got to give poison to save the relationship?
Of course. What's the difference? That's how we're going to save them. By them seeing, I care for you and love you and understand you, and I want to help you.
But for this, the father and mother have to understand that this kid is not a bad kid. They're not making bad choices. They are broken.
They're broken. They're trying to survive.
So you should actually be proud of them. You should be proud of them.
They want to survive. They don't want to die.
Now I have to ask you a personal favor. You said a story in Mezhebush about something that happened before one of your children's chuppah. Would you share that with us, or you don't want to?
I don't mind.
And then you say goodbye. You could say goodbye to us.
Thank you. I've got to get going.
Rabbi Russell, you want that to be Rabbi Russell? Should we save that for your closing? We're going to wrap it up, and we'll save that.
That's the closing.
This is my closing.
Okay, so let me just wrap it up. Give me 1 minute, okay?
Okay.
Okay, first of all, Gracie Hashkach, tonight's share was off the charts. My phones, everything is ringing here, dinging from all sides. Rabbi Russell, next level. Rabbi YY. So Gracie Hashkach, Rabbi Russell, Rabbi wife coming on tonight, giving tremendous chizik.
I have to just say, I was just asking the kashas, so I had vacation tonight. Rabbi Russell.
I feel safe in your company, Rabbi YY. So it's gewaldig.
So that's Shkoyach for coming on again tonight's share. Learning. I said, as Rabbi Russell said, we weren't on before. I said I'm not coming to Kesha Nafshi because my daughter's getting married. Should be a schus for them. All the thousands of people that are mechazik. And again, I'm going to say this again and again. I'm not. I can say with more clarity that if anybody could come to Kesha Nafshi, please come. Rabbi Russell could vouch. Everybody could vouch, and of course, we're making millions of dollars over here. But we're not doing it for that because it's really a Shabbos that will change.
Nobody makes a penny. Nobody makes a penny from this Shabbaton. Only chayvus.
Only chayvus, exactly.
That's what they make.
For Shabbos, I promise you.
It's January 1st, right? What the date of the Shabbos is?
Yeah, December 30th through January through Sunday.
December 30th to January 2nd.
Anybody can come for that Shabbos. I guarantee you. All my friends I brought the last few times. They're all going back, and they look forward to it. It's a life-changing Shabbos on every level. So please join. It's something that will be, I promise you, next level. And if not, Rabbi YY will refund you. And anybody wants to join our WhatsApp chat, the flyers, please WhatsApp me at 848-525-0066 and say my number, and I'll send you every week the flyer. Again, every Sunday night, 9:30 on this Zoom ID, we have Murdik Shiurim. Next week, December 26th, we have Rabbi Chiel Spiro and Dr. El Shapiro. We're talking about, are we really good parents? How to create close relationships with our children. So I think it's going to lead straight from tonight's conversation, straight into that conversation. It's going to be unbelievable, so please join. Everything is recorded. It'll be on menachemberenfeld.com. If anybody has any questions for Rabbi Russell or Rabbi YY, please email coachmenachem@gmail.com. A lot of people are asking for Rabbi Russell's email address. Please email us. We'll forward him the emails, and he'll get back to you hopefully as soon as he could. Tonight's shir 83. Rabbi Russell, shir 83.
Wow.
You came on shir 5, by the way, the first time. And if anybody wants to listen to the shir on the phone, it's 848-777-GROW. Thank you to Lakewood Scoop, Rabbi Yaniv Chazak, Chayla Kaufman, and to COL Mika Sofer. Let's get a closing statement from Rabbi Russell, and then Rabbi Russell, you could sign off, and then Rabbi YY. I want you to encapsulate after all your shilas. I want to hear a good closing. So, okay.
Okay, so I'm just going to make one short comment in response to what Rabbi YY asked me a question, and I'll share a story, but then I have to run, so please forgive me. But my eldest daughter took me into this parsha of struggling teens, and we went through a difficult challenge for many years. Eventually, after lots of painful ups and downs, Baruch Hashem, she got married to a wonderful, wonderful young man. At her chasna, right before she went out to the reception, I got a message. She wanted to speak to me. And I went to the room where she was waiting, beautiful, with a gown, holding 2 tissues forward as she cried through these tissues. And I was worried. Maybe she changed her mind. I don't know what happened here. But she said she has to speak to me. And I came in and she said the words to me, Tati, I have to ask mechila from you for what I put you through. And the Rabbi Shimon gave me the right response, which I've tried to live my life by. And I said to her, you don't have to ask mechila, because you gave me much more than you took from me. As parents, we have to see that. And if we see the challenges they give us, help us grow, that they give us more than they take from us. If we can get ourselves into that place, then the chances are we're going to have a loving relationship and help them as best we can in this world by helping ourselves grow. That has to be the bottom line for all of us. Thank you very much. I'm going. Rabbi Weiber, we'll see you soon. Take care, Bush.
Thanks so much. Thank you, behalf of everybody.
Bye-bye.
Yarich Yomim al Mamlachta.
Okay, now you become from the question guy to the drasha guy. Let's go, Rabbi YY. now that we grilled Rabbi Russell, let's go. Let's get to the bottom line. Let's get to the closing.
You do have to realize, I just want to say that it's 12:15 a.m. and I believe between Zoom and the yeshiva.net and other platforms, we have close to 1,500 people. And many of them are couples. So there's thousands of people who are with us after midnight, I just want to say. And I think it demonstrates 2 things. Number one, how special Jewish parents are. There's a reason we're here 4,000 years later, because of our parents, our grandparents, our great-grandparents, and their Mesiras Nefesh. Number 2, how important it is to have these open and honest conversations of self-awareness, of inner growth. And as Rabbi Shimon said, understand our nisyonos, understand our challenges. But I'm going to leave you with a final message. And I just want to bring out, three powerful, potent, and relevant points. Number one, just an illustration of what we heard all night about chinuch based on connection, on helping the child realize their indispensable value. I read this in Sruli, my friend Rabbi Yisrael Besser's book on Rabbi David Schrenk. You saw? Just love them. In Adelphia, in the yeshiva in Adelphia, he said Rabbi Schrenk once came into a dormitory room and there was a bacher smoking, a young boy. The policy was you weren't allowed to smoke in the dormitory. He was caught red-handed. What do you do? What do you do? You're the principal or you're the Rebbe, the Rosh Yeshiva, and he's smoking. You know what he did? He said, listen, you're not supposed to smoke in yeshiva. You did something wrong. But I also did something wrong. I came into your bedroom without permission. I violated your boundaries. That was disrespectful. Okay? So we're going to do this all over again. I'm going to correct what I did. I'm closing the door. I wasn't supposed to open the door. And I'm coming back in 5 minutes. You understand what happened here? He didn't change the rules in yeshiva. He didn't say you're allowed to smoke. But he gave the boy his dignity. With humor, with tact, with sensitivity. Most importantly, it's about a relationship. It's not, I caught you, out. You're not a cheftze, you're a gavra. And he used to say, the Gemara says, Hagbah koina. The greatest kinyan is Hagbah. You lift it up. You want to be koina a child, a bocher, a girl, Hagbah. You have to lift them up. You lift them up, you're koina. I think that's number one. Number two, what I want to say is, I think it's so important to understand two things. Number one, the Chayza of Lublin quotes Reb Zusha of Anapoli. Reb Zusha of Anapoli says, listen to this, the Mishnah at the end of Saita says, Be'ikvis Mashiach, before Mashiach comes, Yirei Chet Yimasu. We will become disgusted with people who fear sin. Literally, it means the world will become so degenerate and unethical, they're going to be most with people who are Yirei Chet. The Seer of Lublin quotes Reb Zusha of Anipoli, the great spiritual master, the Rebbe Reb Zusha, whose yahrzeit will be soon in a few days. And he said, Be'ikvis Mashiach, before Mashiach comes, Yirei Chet Yimasu. Jews will not be able to tolerate a relationship with Hashem that's only based on negativity and stress and anxiety and fear. Yirei Chet Yimasu. They're going to need a relationship that is based on fusion and love and oneness. Yirei Shamayim, yes, but Yirei Shamayim has to be based on the connection, the deep, infinite relationship that Hashem wants with every Jew. And that's what we're seeing today. People are asking, Russell said the only way you'll keep them with Torah and mitzvahs is if they feel the connection. Why? What's wrong with imposing on them? This is the truth, whether you like it or not. There comes a time before Geula that Hashem wants the deepest type of relationship. Not erisin, the Medrash says, but nisuyin. V'hayu lebasar echad, fusion. The Medrash Rabbah says in Parashas Boy, till Mashiach comes as erisin. You're married to Hashem, but you're still not living in the same house. It's like in the olden days, there was erisin, you got married, and then 12 months later, there was nisuyin. You made a chuppah, you moved in together. Mashiach comes as nisuyin, intimacy. That's what we need today. And the final point I want to make is, I think what we're seeing a lot today is, if I'm not mistaken, the Navi says in Daniel that in the time of the Geula, the end of Golus, Yisbararu v'yislabnu v'yitzarfu rabim. Everything that was repressed is going to come out in the open. And the reason for that is so that we could clear it up and create a world inside of ourselves and around us that is completely integrated with Hashem. And I think what we're seeing now is a lot of things are coming up in the youth, in young people, adults. As I said earlier, it's not just trauma of what happened to your child at home or school. Your child may have had the best upbringing, but you know what? It may be thousands of years of trauma that our genes are carrying in epigenetics, and before the Geula comes, it's coming out. Trauma, the wounds, the anxiety, besides experiences that we have that may be difficult. And we have some very great and deep and spiritual souls that are feeling the pain of existence and can't deal with any form of hypocrisy, including the hypocrisy represented by a world that eclipses the truth of Einoid Molvade, that Hashem is everything. And they are feeling that pain, and it's coming out, and it's driving us crazy. But the purpose is not to run away from it, to look at it, to confront it, to embrace it, to have compassion for it, and to realize that this is an opportunity to be able to cleanse ourselves from all the toxicity that alienates us and eclipses our deepest truth, that we are not trauma victims. We are a chelik elikam imal mamish. Our bodies and our souls are divine. When your child is bringing out and triggering these things in you, it's an opportunity for the ultimate healing. And finally, I just want to say to everybody who's here, we need each other's support. We need each other's inspiration. We don't have a solution to all the problems, but what we could do is we could be here with each other, love each other, support each other, not judge each other. Hey, asvu v'hagida lechem es hashikri eschem ba'achris hayamim. As the Hasidic masters say, when things happen at the end of days, hey, asvu, medav sich halten zusammen. We have to come together to be able to unite, to be able to connect. And the last posuk that we read yesterday was Yosef died and he was placed in a casket in Mitzrayim, and we scream Chazak, Chazak, v'nis Chazek. Why? Because the fact that the Jews knew Yaakov went away from Mitzrayim. Yaakov represents the person who can give you solutions on how to get out of the mess. Yosef is the one who says, I'm with you. I'm with you in Mitzrayim. And when you know that Hashem is with you in the struggle, in the challenge, with every single child, we have the resources, because Hashem itcha, al tira v'al techas, imesach shamayim shamata v'atzir shalinak, you can say chazak, chazak, v'nis chazek. Thank you.
Roy, thank you. Thank you, everybody, for joining tonight. It was Rabbi YY. Better than I thought. Next level.
Hoidu Hashem ki tov, ki li'olam chazdai. Thank you to Asher. Thank you, Coach Menachem, for creating the tent, Avram Avinu's tent, open from all four sides. That means anybody that comes from any angle, right? We don't close doors. Avram Avinu's tent allowed everybody to come in. You come from Mizrach, Ma'ariv, Durham, Tzofim,
YouTube, yeshiva.net, Zoom, wherever.
Lakewood, Muncie, Crown Heights, Borough Park, Golders Green, Eretz Yisrael, Kiryas Sefer, Gateshead.
Rabbi Russel, Rabbi YY, like Kesha Nafshi, do you know what anybody's wearing on Shabbos? Yes or no? He's wearing a shtreimel, he's wearing a bekasher, he's wearing a hat.
You got every type over there. You got every type.
Is it garnished? No hat.
You don't see it because once the vulnerability comes out, it goes beyond the garments. It's a place where you can't afford to focus on clothes because
it's real. Let's get real.
It's very real. It's very authentic. And when that happens, you know what I'll tell you? The real truth is the Shechina is there. Well, you know why? Because whenever the egos melt away and the insecurity melts away and people's innermost truth and pain comes out, Hashem is always there. You see it. Huh?
There's no
blockages. We're protecting them. Most conversations, I'm trying to impress you. I'm protecting myself. Again, I'm in a place where I have to protect myself. Over there, people feel the comfort to cry, to laugh. The laughing there is also much more powerful because you're free. When you're free to cry, you're free to laugh. I would again encourage everybody. It's amazing for parents, even if your children, Baruch Hashem, are doing well, but everyone could become better and deeper and more attentive, especially in our times with a lot of challenges. It's a great Shabbos for parents, especially if you're having a struggling child in any way, and you're struggling, I have seen how parents have really discovered how to deal with their own pain, because that's really what it comes down to. At the end of the day, after years of listening to people, when Rabbi Shimon speaks about his daughter coming to him before the chuppah, it's really about you forgiving yourself for not having the nachas you expected. And instead of going into anger and rage and becoming defensive or aggressive, you can really have compassion for yourself, for your shattered dreams, and then you can have compassion for your child. And you just look at the situation from a higher more refined, more spiritual perspective, you stop asking what your child can do for you, and you ask what Hashem wants for me at this moment. And everything changes. You don't ask anymore, but I want nachas, but I need him in this yeshiva, but I want a shidduch, but I need a seminary, but what my neighbor going to say, and my uncle, and my aunt, and my brother, and my mechutin, and the Kal is coming tomorrow, and the Shalom Zocha they're going to see. I got it. We all like that. You know what? It's much deeper. What does Hashem really want at this moment?
Then one of the most powerful things that happened is somebody I would know that went there for Shabbos. The kid was struggling a bit, so on the lighter side. Let's put it that way. And they went there for Shabbos. They went back home and they just literally hugged and kissed their kid. They were so thankful that the kid is just a good kid. Just needs a little TLC.
Yeah.
So they changed the whole mindset. Instead of saying, "Oh, his yarmulke is too small, his pants are too tight." He said, Baruch Hashem.
And he comes home bein azmanim, and he doesn't wake up for shacharis, and he comes home for Shabbos, and he comes late to shul, and he misses Kriyas HaTorah, and you become obsessed with it, and you're angry at your kid who's trying so hard, and you're angry at them. Now, they should be at Kriyas HaTorah. I'm a chassid of Kriyas HaTorah. Every Jew should be at Kriyas HaTorah. But how are you going to get him to Kriyas HaTorah? Not by being angry.
Okay, I got to end with one good joke, and then it's 12:30. I got to end with one good joke. Deal?
No.
I was in Shul Simchas Torah many years ago, and my friend was there with his kid. So the Zaidi comes, and he says, "Stand by Zaidi, by Moshe Emes, because I want to throw you up by Moshe Emes." The kid's 5-6 years old. He's running around. And the Zaidi looks for him by Moshe Emes. He's not there. He grabs the kid. He says, "You stand next to Zaidi, I'm going to give you a patch." And the 30-year-old turns to the 6-year-old and says, "Tati, today's generation, they're going to give him a patch." He says, "Sei schon still, I'm going to give you a patch also."
It's funny. I do have to say, you'll forgive me, because this happened not so long ago, and it was so powerful. You say the kid needs a little TLC, right? Those were your words, Rabash. The kid needs a little TLC. And let me tell you something. And the child who's completely alienated from you needs TLC in a more potent and more profound way. The child that's aggravating you most needs the most TLC. That's what we just heard a whole night. It's amazing. I want people to understand. He's a therapist for 32 years, okay? In Lakewood, when Lakewood was still much smaller, more tight, I don't have to say, Lakewood, one of the most amazing, glorious Jewish communities in the world, and he says he never found a kid. He never met a child who left Yiddishkeit because of a classic Yetzer Hara. What do you say? He never met such a child. It's always the kid is broken. So that means the only way to deal with it is, if you want to help him, you got to build him. You got to connect to him. You got to lift him up. And when you tell him, you're a loser, you're a disappointment, you're going to get punished, you're disappointing Hashem, you're there. You're actually causing him to leave Yiddishkeit even more. So I'm trying to give Musar to get him back. And what am I doing? I'm driving him away further. Now I'm guilty for the Chilul Shabbos. The guy who's trying to help is actually... So I'm just going to end with this story. I went for a Shabbaton somewhere to a community, a beautiful community in the United States. A very big, beautiful yeshivish community. I really like a lot of people, very special people, a lot of Bnei Torah, a lot of Bali Tshuva. And I spoke at Shalosh Shudas. And in the middle of the speech, I spoke about Yaakov's relationship with Yosef, which I often speak about, Vayimo'en, Demuz de Yoikner, Shal Yaakov Aviv. The clips go around. And the point was, you don't disconnect from your child, ever. Don't give up on your child. You remain connected forever, and that will help your kid. Like we discussed in the beginning of the Shir with Reuven and Yaakov and so forth. And I said, you just don't sever cords with your child. Don't sever cords. Do not make them feel unwelcome in your home, unwelcome in your life. Figure out things. If they have to move on to find a job in another state, okay, but no alienation, chas v'shalom. A person comes over to me afterwards. He's crying. I see a middle-aged man, 50, 60. He says, where were you 35 years ago to give this speech? I said, 35 years ago, I was eating cotton candy or whatever I was doing. He says, why didn't you give this speech 35 years ago? I said, I knew nothing about this 35 years ago. I still understand very little. I'm learning every day. I say, why? This is what he tells me. And I'm telling you, if there's something that breaks your heart, this was it for me. He says, 35 years ago, me and my wife were Bali Tshuva. We discovered Yiddishkeit. We loved it. We had a boy who was already born earlier. He was a teenager, and he became frum with us, but he was struggling in the system very badly. And he was misbehaving. He was disobedient. And I went to somebody to consult him. What do I do? My kid, sehelfnisht, he's not listening. He doesn't want to fit in. He's not complying. He's violating everything. And you know what this person gave him advice? And I'm not judging him. He was giving the advice based on his own tools. He said, tell your son there's an ultimatum. If he shapes up, matoiva manoyim, you love him. If not, he can't live in this house anymore. The house has standards, and you're going to change the locks. Because he has a key, you're going to change the locks. Not an ultimatum. And he says, what's going to happen if he says no? He says, of course he won't say no. He's going to run back. He'll leave for a week. He's going to see how miserable the streets are. He'll come running back and everything will be good. He said, when I was a kid, I also ran away from my house for a few hours and I came right back. You know, you run away. You ever ran away from your house for like 25 minutes until you got hungry and you came back, right? This person says, I was a Baal Tshuva. You want to fit in, you want to do the right thing. So what did I do? I called in my son, he was 16 years old, and I said, listen, these are the rules. This is our tradition, that's what we do. You know, if you comply, great. This is your house. If not, have a good day. Make a decision. And he says, my son did not comply. I changed the locks. He left 35 years ago. He says, 35 years, I have not had a telephone call from my boy. I have not had a visit. My wife didn't have a telephone call from this boy. 35 years we didn't hear from him. A few years ago I heard from somebody who met him that he married out. He married a non-Jew. And he has a few non-Jewish children. 35 years I didn't hear from my boy. And then he looks at me and he says, Rabbi, why? And for 35 years I haven't slept one night. Nobody knows that. But I have not slept one night for 35 years. So that's why I ask you, why were you not here 35 years ago to give this speech? What I learned from here at that moment was, I hugged this person. What can I tell him? What can I tell him? But I realized when you have your child in your house, celebrate him, celebrate her, connect. Unconditional love, unconditional pride. Am zu yotzarti li lasi yisaperu. The Navis Yeshaya says, Hashem says about every Jew is created and represents me, and every Jew by his very existence brings out the infinity of Hashem. Every Jew is Neitzer Matoi Masei Yodai Lihispoyer. Somebody about Hashem says, I brag with this girl. I boast with this child. If good enough for Hashem, good enough for you. Enjoy, dance with your kids, celebrate them. And if you're allergic to them, don't blame them. Then I have to do a lot of inner work and become a little deeper and a little more real and a little more divine. Thank you, Chevra.
Good night, everybody. See you everybody next Sunday. Bye-bye.
This class is brought to you by theyeshiva.net. Please help us continue the classes. Make even a small contribution at www.theyeshiva.net/donate.